Chapter 30-44. The young man did not dare to approach the stone door. He used his divine power to form a palm and placed it on the stone door, pushing it with all his might. Follow. Dream. Come click. The stone door slowly opened, revealing a pitch-black passageway. From beginning to end, there was nothing out of the ordinary. I told you so many years have passed. There can't be any threat. You cowards. The young man laughed proudly. However, in the next moment, his expression suddenly changed. His body was like a startled grasshopper. He jumped up and retreated 1,000 meters. Not only him, but the expressions of the others also changed. At that moment, the skeletons sitting on the ground underwent a shocking change. These skeletons were suffused with white light. As the white light spread out, the skeletons' bodies actually disintegrated into white powder and flew into the air. All the skeletons were the same. Starting from their heads, they disintegrated into white powder and drifted into the air. Soon, all the skeletons disappeared and turned into white powder. The powder gathered in the air and emitted a dazzling white light. Then, the white light turned into an image that floated in the air. In the image, there were more than 300 powerhouses of different races. These powerhouses were standing in a secret room. Everyone could tell at a glance that the secret room was almost the same as the stone room. It was not difficult to guess that the 300 powerhouses were very likely the 300 skeletons from before. Could this be the image of those powerhouses when they were alive? Someone guessed. Many people nodded. That was most likely the case. At that moment, the 300 powerhouses in the image all raised their hands and spoke loudly as if they were swearing an oath. We swear with our lives that we will guard the natal spirit stone for all eternity. We swear with our lives that we will guard the natal spirit stone for all eternity. We swear with our lives that we will guard the natal spirit stone for all eternity. Voices echoed in the stone room. The voices of the people in the image could be heard clearly. Voices continued to echo in the room. After a few minutes, the voices finally disappeared. The image also slowly dissipated, and the stone room became empty. However, many people had thoughtful looks in their eyes. It was not hard to guess from the conversation that the 300 or so experts had sworn an oath to guard the natal spirit stone. As such, they sat there cross-legged until they died of old age. Then, what was a life spirit vitality stone? Was it worth so many experts protecting it with their lives? Moreover, it seemed like the vitality stone was here. It was very likely that it was behind the stone door. Many people's eyes began to fill with a fiery radiance. Although they did not know what a life spirit vitality stone was, they knew that the life spirit vitality stone was extremely valuable. However, it was definitely a treasure that was worth so many experts, who were most likely above the godly king realm, to guard with their lives. It was very likely that it was a peerless treasure left behind in Star Moon Ancient City during the early days of the Heavenly Palace. How much was this treasure worth? Many people revealed burning greed. Whoosh! 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 Suddenly, someone moved. With a flicker, he rushed toward the passage behind the stone gate. Go! The treasure is mine. As soon as one person moved, the others followed suit. They all rushed towards the passageway. Let's go take a look. Lu Ming also moved. He followed the crowd and rushed toward the passage. The passage behind the stone gate was very wide. It could accommodate thousands of people walking side by side. Moreover, there were stone statues on both sides of the passage. They looked like they were about to decay. Many of the stone statues were covered with cracks. The crowd did not care and rushed forward with all their might. Boom! Boom! Suddenly, the stone statues on both sides of the passage moved. These stone statues shot toward Lu Ming and the others. Some of the stone statues brandished stone swords, while others brandished stone spears. The power was astonishing. There were a few consecutive screams. A few young men were careless and were hit by the stone statues. They were killed on the spot. Many people reacted quickly and hurriedly blocked, but they were also injured. Whoosh! There was a whistling sound as a stone sword slashed toward Lu Ming's head at an astonishing speed. Roar! Without thinking, Lu Ming punched out. A 9-clawed dragon condensed and pounced forward. It collided with the stone sword with a loud bang. Lu Ming's body trembled and he floated back. What a powerful force! There was a trace of seriousness in Lu Ming's eyes. After exchanging a move with the stone statues, he realized that the strength of these stone statues was astonishing. Whoosh! After the stone statue was blocked, it brandished its stone sword again and charged toward Lu Ming. Lu Ming directly activated the battle character art and quadrupled his battle strength. A high-grade grade 9 divine weapon appeared in his hand. He swung his spear. Clang! The long spear and the stone sword collided with a loud bang. Finally, the stone statue was sent flying by Lu Ming. A few pieces of stone fell from the stone sword, and there were more cracks. These stone statues have been here for so many years. They are covered in cracks, but they still have such strength. I wonder how terrifying they were at their peak. Lu Ming exclaimed inwardly. These stone statues were covered in cracks and looked like they were about to fall apart. However, their power was still astonishing. If they were in perfect condition, even a godly king would be killed if they entered. Perhaps it was more than that. Kill! Lu Ming's mind spun rapidly as he continued to charge forward, his long spear constantly sweeping at the stone statue. With the quadrupled battle strength of the battle character art, Lu Ming completely suppressed the stone statue. After 7 or 8 consecutive collisions, the stone statue fell to the ground with a loud bang and completely fell apart, turning into a pile of rubble. At this time, the other Sky Prides also began to counterattack. Stone statues were constantly smashed into rubble. After Lu Ming destroyed a stone statue, he continued to move forward. Not long after, Lu Ming was attacked by another stone statue. However, Lu Ming easily shattered it. Just like that, he continued to move forward, killing along the way. There were many stone statues on both sides of the passage. It was not difficult to guess that a long time ago, the more than 300 experts in the stone room were guarding the first level. And these stone statues here were guarding the second level. However, due to the long passage of time, those experts guarding the place had long fallen and turned into ashes. As for these stone statues, they were close to decaying and did not have much strength left. Otherwise, with their cultivation, they would be courting death if they entered. Even so, there were still people falling. Of course, those who fell were not very strong. Generally, they were half-step godly kings. If they were careful, they could still deal with them. This passage was very long. After rushing for a few hundred miles, they still had not reached the end. However, there were no more stone statues on both sides of the passage. Many people secretly heaved a sigh of relief and continued forward. Chapter 30-45. The others were shocked, and they quickly stopped and watched. There were no more stone statues in front of the passage, but there was a formation. Obviously, a formation had been carved into the passage, and it was likely to be even more terrifying than the stone statues. How is that possible? How many years has it been since the early days of the Heavenly Palace? The formation carved there hasn't decayed and is still working? Someone said in disbelief. Many people had grave expressions. It was obvious how terrifying the person who set up the formation back then was. His strength was unfathomable. He was definitely someone stronger than a godly king. Only an extremely terrifying existence could carve runes that were still effective after such a long time. No one can escape the punishment of time. No matter how powerful an existence is, they will still fall. Runes are the same. They are carved with energy. After such a long time, I don't believe that the array can still maintain its power. I guess there is only a little bit of energy left. someone said. Many people nodded in agreement. However, no one went forward. Even so, what if the remaining energy of the formation was enough to kill them? If that was the case, they would still die if they went forward. Let's test it out with a divine artifact. Someone took out a divine artifact battle sword, brushing past the battle sword as it flew forward. Whoosh! When the divine artifact battle sword flew past, it seemed to be sensed. Runes appeared on both sides of the passage. Then, a divine light flashed and struck the divine artifact battle sword. Clang! The divine artifact battle sword vibrated a little, leaving a shallow mark on it. Whoosh! Whoosh! Then, the runes in the passage continued to flash, and a few more divine lights blasted toward the divine artifact battle sword. The divine artifact battle sword vibrated continuously, but it was not broken. Only a shallow mark was left on it. It can block it. Many people's eyes lit up. The power of the formation was not that strong. The divine artifact just now was a superior grade 9 divine artifact. If it could block it, then they could pass. Everyone present was a top prodigy. Who did not have a few superior grade 9 divine artifacts? Let's go forward and try. Following that, a few more people controlled their divine artifacts and flew forward. There had always been formations in front of them, but they were all blocked by the divine artifact. They couldn't break through the divine artifact. As expected, after so many years, there isn't much power left in this formation. We can pass through. Go. A young man smiled, and a suit of armor appeared on his body, covering his entire body. This armor was a 9th order upper grade defensive artifact. After putting on the armor, the young man stepped forward. As soon as he entered the area of the formation, the runes began to shine, and a divine light shot towards him. However, the divine light bombarded the armor and was blocked by it. That person continued forward, going deeper and deeper. Let's go, let's go. Set off. More and more people stepped forward, taking out all kinds of defensive divine artifacts. Some people took out their shields, while others took out their battle armors and put them on before charging into the passageway. Clang! 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 On the walls and ground of the passage, symbols flickered continuously, turning into divine light to attack them. They bombarded all types of defensive divine artifacts, releasing intense vibrations, as if iron was being forged. However, the power of the divine light was ultimately limited. They continued to move forward, and many people disappeared in front of them. Lu Ming also took out 2 defensive divine artifacts to protect himself and rushed forward. Along the way, they did not encounter too much danger. The remaining energy of the formations was limited. In some areas, there were even no runes. They successfully passed through the passageway. When they successfully passed through the passageway and reached the end of the passageway, at the end of the passageway was another huge secret chamber. There were some shelves in the secret chamber. On them were some jade bottles and weapons. Everyone's eyes lit up, and they rushed over. Someone hurriedly grabbed a weapon. However, when they grabbed the weapon and shook it slightly, the weapon directly shattered and fell to the ground. It's useless. It's become scrap metal. That person whispered. The others were similar. They picked up the weapons on the shelves and found that they had all become scrap metal. They had lost their spirituality. Some people picked up the jade bottles and found that those jade bottles contained divine pills. However, as too much time had passed, those divine pills had lost their medicinal effects and became useless. Sigh. Many people sighed. They had worked hard to come here and found treasures, but unfortunately, they were all useless. It couldn't be that there was nothing left in this castle and everything had become a pile of trash, right? Many people thought so. I don't think so. Some peerless treasures can retain their power even after a long time. There are also some treasures that can retain their power if they are protected by a formation. These treasures are probably not of high levels, and they don't have a formation to protect them. That's why they're like this. some people said. Then, everyone looked around. They found that there were doors in all directions of the secret chamber. The doors were open, and they did not know where they led to. Whoosh! 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 Someone moved and rushed to a door. Then, the others also moved and rushed to another door. They had passed through many checkpoints. Logically speaking, it was time for them to reap the rewards. Perhaps there would be treasures with intact spirituality left behind. In particular, the life spirit primordial stones that were heavily protected were even more tempting. Lu Ming also rushed to a door. Behind the door was a corridor. As they walked along the corridor, they found many rooms. There were many people who walked in this direction. Everyone explored the rooms, but unfortunately, they did not find anything. Boom! Suddenly, there was a violent explosion in front of them. Obviously, someone was fighting. Lu Ming's eyes flashed and he rushed forward. After passing through a corridor, he arrived at a courtyard. As soon as Lu Ming arrived, he saw a few young people fighting fiercely. In this courtyard, there were several large chests. There were faint flashes of runes on these large boxes. Obviously, a formation had been set up on these large boxes to protect the treasures in the boxes. The treasures in the boxes were very likely to retain their spirituality. These were left behind by many powerful existences during the early period of the Heavenly Palace era. Any one of these treasures was probably priceless. These people's eyes were red as they fought fiercely. I found this place first. Get lost. A young man shouted. Those who see it have a share, don't you know? Another young man sneered in response. Then die. The young man from before shouted. However, as more and more people came, the courtyard fell into a chaotic battle. Lu Ming's eyes flashed, but he did not make a move immediately. Wouldn't it be better to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight? There were many people who had the same thoughts as him. On the side, there were several other young people standing tall. Whoosh! Suddenly, Lu Ming sensed a cold murderous intent rushing toward him. Chapter 3046. All of a sudden, Lu Ming felt a cold murderous intent spreading toward him. At the same time, a terrifying force pierced toward the back of Lu Ming's head. It was unusually sharp. Lu Ming's spiritual senses were extremely sharp, so he immediately sensed it. He activated the Nine Heavens Kuan Peng technique and dodged the attack in a flash. Then, Lu Ming turned back and saw a young man wearing armor and holding a long spear appear at the place where Lu Ming was standing just now. This young man wasn't Chu Baxing, but he was dressed similarly to Chu Baxing. Who are you? Lu Ming asked coldly. Young Master Chu Baxing didn't kill you, so I'll kill you in his place. The young man said coldly. His tone was domineering, as if Lu Ming was going to die. It seems like you're one of Chu Baxing's men. Lu Ming smiled faintly, but his smile was filled with terrifying killing intent. Since this person wanted to kill him, he was already a dead man in his eyes. That's right. There's no need for young Master Chu Baxing to personally deal with trash like you. Since you've offended young Master Chu Baxing, you should be prepared to die. The young man said coldly. His armor glowed, and his aura was as heavy as a mountain. Whoosh! The young man took a step forward and stabbed his spear at Lu Ming with shocking speed. Before the spear gleam arrived, a terrifying and sharp aura had already charged toward Lu Ming. Awakened God Force, 99%. As soon as the young man attacked, Lu Ming could sense that his God Force had already awakened to 99%. It was no wonder he was so confident. Unless he encountered geniuses like Jin Yuan and Chu Baxing, he would be invincible. Not to mention, Lu Ming was only a 5th-level celestial god. Although Lu Ming had exchanged 2 blows with Chu Baxing and displayed extraordinary strength, Chu Baxing hadn't used his full strength, and Lu Ming hadn't transformed into his ancient god body. Unfortunately, his opponent was Lu Ming. He had miscalculated. Roar! With the roar of an ancient god, Lu Ming transformed into his ancient god body. His terrifying aura erupted like a volcano. Wang! Lu Ming's long spear shook and swept out, hitting the opponent's long spear. The opponent's long spear shook violently, and then directly flew out of his hand. The terrifying power directly caused the arm of the Chu clan's young man to explode. Ancient god body, green-armored ancient god body, damn it, the young man from the Chu clan roared, his eyes filled with terror. He knew that he had encountered a monster. Without the slightest hesitation, he retreated, intending to inform Chu Baxing of what had happened. However, how could Lu Ming allow him to retreat? Sky-piercing, Lu Ming said coldly as he executed the third strike of annihilation. A resplendent spear ray shot out and caught up to the young man from the Chu clan in an instant. Puff! The spear light pierced through the forehead of the young man from the Chu clan, killing him. With a wave of his hand, Lu Ming collected the Chu clan youth's spatial ring. Then, he turned his gaze to the two chests in the courtyard. Bang! Lu Ming stepped forward, his 100-meter-tall figure stepping into the courtyard. His aura spread out in all directions. The young men who were in the midst of battle were shocked and they sensed Lu Ming's terrifying aura. They stopped their battle and looked at Lu Ming with grave expressions. These two chests are mine. All of you, scram! Lu Ming said domineeringly. His words made the young men's faces turn ugly. Humph, you might be strong, but you want to monopolize the treasure by yourself? Do you think you're someone like Chu Baxing? A young man holding a silver saber said coldly. This person came from the Nine Sabers' Heavenly King residence, so he was naturally unhappy with Lu Ming. That's right. You want to monopolize it, and you want us to scram as well? Hee, let's join forces and make him scram. Another young man said coldly. Just now, Lu Ming had killed the Chu clan youth, but there were so many of them here that they weren't afraid of Lu Ming. They didn't believe that Lu Ming was as strong as someone like Chu Baxing when he was only a 5th-level heaven god. You refuse a toast only to be forced to drink a forfeit. Lu Ming said coldly. He couldn't be bothered to talk nonsense with them. He brandished his spear and pressed it down on the young men. The spear light was so huge that it filled the entire courtyard, making it impossible for the young men to dodge. Let's join forces and get rid of this brat first, then we'll fight for the treasure. All right, let's join forces. Boom! 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 All of a sudden, the youths in the courtyard struck together and launched a terrifying attack toward Lu Ming. There were a total of 9 young men, and each of them was a peak expert. They had awakened their god force to 80 to 90%. Their attacks collided with Lu Ming's giant spear light, resulting in a deafening explosion. Strong gusts of wind swept across the place like a grade 18 gust of wind. The next moment, the 9 young geniuses' bodies shuddered violently. They spat out mouthfuls of blood at the same time and were sent flying like cannonballs. They either slammed into the ground or the walls. Their bodies twitched as they spat out mouthfuls of blood. Luckily, the walls and ground were extremely sturdy, thus they did not shatter into pieces. However, everyone's eyes were filled with shock. Even the geniuses of the 9 Extinction Heavenly Emperor Palace were in disbelief. It was unbelievable that Lu Ming's strength had reached such a level. The 9 young men kept spitting out mouthfuls of blood. Their eyes were filled with fear as they looked at Lu Ming. They could not believe that a 5th-layer heaven god was so strong. Even with the 9 of them teaming up, they still couldn't withstand a single blow from Lu Ming. Now, leave. Lu Ming snapped coldly. Let's go. The young men did not dare to stay any longer. They immediately left the place. In the blink of an eye, not a single one was left. Lu Ming was about to transform into his normal form to check the 2 boxes when a cold laugh could be heard. He, who would have thought a 5th-layer heaven god would be so strong? Interesting, very interesting. As soon as the voice was heard, a figure with an eerie aura appeared in the residence with a flicker. Someone from the Nine Serenities Heavenly Emperor Palace. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes and blurted out involuntarily. The person was not Yuhan, but one of the three geniuses of the Nine Serenities Heavenly Emperor Palace that had come with Yuhan. This person looked at Lu Ming with a cold gaze. He stuck out his scarlet tongue and licked his lips. He sneered and said, "I really want to taste your soul. I can smell it. Your soul must be very delicious. Is that so? I'm afraid you won't be able to enjoy it." Lu Ming said with a calm smile. He, even though your ancient god flesh has evolved into a blue-armored ancient god, it's useless against me. Your soul belongs to me, Yu Lian. As soon as his laughter died down, Yu Lian's figure pounced on Lu Ming like a shadow. His speed was shockingly fast, just like a phantom. In a flash, he was right in front of Lu Ming. Chapter 3047. In a flash, Yu Lian was right in front of Lu Ming. His speed was shockingly fast. "Get lost!" Lu Ming roared. His spear radiance surged and his aura erupted like a torrent. A crescent-shaped spear radiance slashed towards Yu Lian. However, Yu Lian's body flickered and twisted like a ghost. He dodged Lu Ming's attack by a hair's breadth and continued to pounce towards Lu Ming. Void break, Lu Ming's long spear vibrated and stabbed out. In an instant, he had stabbed out more than 10 times. More than 10 meteor-like spear radiance pierced towards Yu Lian, sealing off the space around him. Yu Lian could only face this attack head-on. 9 Nether Ghost Claw. Yu Lian shouted and clawed out. The ghost claw flashed and caught the spear radiance. The spear radiance vibrated and collapsed. Yu Lian appeared in front of Lu Ming in a flash and clawed at Lu Ming. His speed was so fast that Lu Ming almost couldn't react in time. Fortunately, Lu Ming had already activated the 9-layered golden armor and covered his entire body. Bang! Yu Lian's ghost claw clawed at the 9-layered golden armor, causing it to vibrate continuously. "Block it for me!" Lu Ming roared and activated the 9-layered golden armor to the extreme. The divine force in his body rushed towards the 9-layered golden armor. Chi! Yu Lian's ghost claw clawed at the 9-layered golden armor and his finger pierced through it. However, it wasn't easy as it was met with great resistance. "What's going on with your divine force?" Yu Lian's expression changed drastically. He sensed it carefully and screamed, "Your divine force, so many divine-grade divine forces. How can you control so many divine-grade divine forces?" Yu Lian shouted in disbelief. His 9 nether ghost claw clashed with Lu Ming's 9-layered golden armor. He could clearly feel that Lu Ming could control so many divine-grade divine forces. This was unbelievable. "No amount of divine power can stop me," Yu Lian screamed. A ghost-like wail and wolf-like howl came from his body. His ghost claw flashed with a black light, penetrated Lu Ming's 9-layered golden armor, and grabbed onto Lu Ming's body. Creak, an ear-piercing sound rang out as the 9 Serenities ghost claw clawed at the green scales. The scales were torn apart and bloody marks appeared. That wasn't the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was that the 9 nether ghost claw had a strange energy that directly passed through Lu Ming's body and into his soul, causing Lu Ming's soul to tremble. When one's soul trembled, one's control over divine power would weaken. This caused Lu Ming's aura to tremble and weaken slightly. Seizing the opportunity, Yu Lian grabbed a piece of flesh from Lu Ming's body. Roar! A roar came from Lu Ming's throat as he retreated a few hundred meters, distancing himself from Yu Lian. Ha, I didn't expect that you could control so many divine-grade divine forces. No wonder you're so strong. Kid, tell me your cultivation technique. Yu Lian laughed and stared greedily at Lu Ming. He felt that Lu Ming must have cultivated a supreme technique to be able to control so many kinds of divine-grade divine powers. If he could get his hands on such a heaven-defying technique, he would definitely soar into the sky and become a peerless genius, the brightest star in the sky. His heart was burning with passion. You want my technique? Sure, let's see if you have the ability to do so. Lu Ming said coldly, his eyes flashing with murderous intent. Since Yu Lian knew his secret, he must die. This matter must not be spread out. Kid, don't think that I can't kill you. Die. Yu Lian screamed. Her figure flashed and she dashed toward Lu Ming again. Her aura was faintly stronger than before. Obviously, Yu Lian had used all her strength. Roar. Roar. Dragon roars sounded continuously. Lu Ming used the mystical dragon aspect technique while waving his long spear to fight Yu Lian. However, Yu Lian's movement technique was extremely strange. His body didn't seem to be made of flesh and blood. Lu Ming's attacks didn't seem to cause much damage to him. On the other hand, Yu Lian's attacks on Lu Ming's body would cause Lu Ming's soul to tremble every time. With his soul trembling, Lu Ming couldn't unleash his full strength. After dozens of exchanges, Lu Ming's body had a few more wounds and fresh blood flowed. Old Liang, can't you absorb his strange energy? Lu Ming transmitted his voice to the measuring word incantation. The other party's energy that affected the soul was too strange and impossible to guard against. Lu Ming couldn't unleash his full strength. If not for the influence of this energy, Lu Ming wouldn't be afraid of the other party and could even defeat him. After dozens of battles, Lu Ming realized that the other party wasn't immune to his attacks. It was just that the other party's movement technique was strange and could dissipate part of the power. Lu Ming's attack could still cause damage to the other party. Especially the divine power that had awakened the origin divine power factor, the damage to the other party was even greater. However, Lu Ming couldn't deal with the energy that attacked the soul. He could only ask the measuring word incantation for help. No. Unexpectedly, the measuring word incantation answered directly. No. You can even absorb the poisonous gas that affected my soul with the shaman blood? Why can't you? Lu Ming asked. That kind of poisonous gas is just a kind of energy that has no consciousness. I can naturally absorb it. However, this person's attack contains his personal will and is completely controlled by the other party. Naturally, I can't absorb it. If I can absorb it, wouldn't I be able to directly absorb the divine power of others? The measuring word incantation asked. Lu Ming was speechless. Indeed, what the shaman blood used was just a kind of poisonous gas. The power that Yu Lian used was a kind of strange divine power that contained Yu Lian's spiritual will. Just like what the measuring word incantation said, if he could even absorb this, then when Lu Ming encountered an enemy, as long as he released the measuring word incantation, wouldn't he be able to directly devour the other party's divine power? Obviously, the measuring word incantation couldn't do that. Boom! At this time, Yu Lian attacked Lu Ming again, causing his soul to tremble. He almost lost control of his divine power. Puchi! Yu Lian grabbed again and grabbed Lu Ming's body, tearing off a large piece of flesh. Lu Ming retreated continuously. He, go to hell. I, Yu Lian, am so lucky to have obtained a supreme technique. Yu Lian sneered again and again, as if killing Lu Ming was a sure thing. What should I do? Lu Ming kept thinking of countermeasures in his mind. Kid, you can only rely on yourself. See if you have any treasures that can withstand soul attacks. The measuring word incantation said irresponsibly. What treasures can withstand soul attacks? Lu Ming's mind raced. Chapter 3048. Hundreds of thoughts flashed through Lu Ming's mind. He wondered if he had any treasures on him that could block soul attacks. However, the answer was no. Lu Ming had many treasures on him, but most of them were divine tools. Ordinary divine tools could not block soul attacks. Oh right, the frightening feather painting scroll and the purple copper coffin. The most mysterious treasures on me are these two. I wonder if they can block soul attacks. Finally, Lu Ming thought of the frightening feather painting scroll and the purple copper coffin. Needless to say, the purple copper coffin was incomparably mysterious. Lu Ming rarely touched it. The frightening feather painting scroll was also quite mysterious. At first, Lu Ming thought it was just an ordinary painting scroll with the word battle on it. Later, when Lu Ming learned about the frightening feather from it, the word battle also disappeared. Later, the bone demon actually appeared from the frightening feather painting scroll. Lu Ming also knew that the frightening feather painting scroll contained an internal space. The purple copper coffin was hidden in the frightening feather painting scroll. Lu Ming's understanding of the frightening feather painting scroll was very limited. Now, he could only give it a try. If this continued, Lu Ming would really die in Yu Lian's hands. With a thought, Lu Ming controlled the frightening feather painting scroll and flew towards Lu Ming's soul. Then, like a piece of cloth, it wrapped around Lu Ming's soul. Boom! At this time, Lu Ming and Yu Lian exchanged another move. In Yu Lian's hand, a strange energy drilled into Lu Ming's body and blasted towards his soul. But at this time, the frightening feather painting scroll emitted a layer of light. That strange energy directly disappeared when it hit the layer of light. Lu Ming's soul was completely fine. He blocked it. He actually blocked it. Lu Ming was ecstatic. He did not expect the frightening feather painting scroll to be able to block the opponent's soul attack. Just now, he was just giving it a try as a last resort. He never thought that it would actually work. Kill! Coming to his senses, Lu Ming roared. His god force erupted like a volcano, turning into a terrifying spear light that shot towards Yu Lian. Yu Lian originally thought that she had shaken Lu Ming's soul and was about to continue attacking to aggravate Lu Ming's injuries. She never expected that Lu Ming would be as lively as a dragon and as lively as a tiger. He didn't seem to be affected at all and even launched a terrifying attack. Not good, Yu Lian's expression changed. At this critical moment, he wanted to retreat, but he was a step too late. The spear light accurately struck Yu Lian's body. Yu Lian screamed and was sent flying. His body swayed and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. His aura had also weakened. So you can get hurt too. I thought you were immune to my attacks. Lu Ming mocked. Brat, you're courting death. I'll make sure you die miserably. Kill! Yu Lian screamed. She transformed into a figure and charged toward Lu Ming. Bang! Bang! Lu Ming stepped out, waved his spear, and clashed with Yu Lian. When the two of them clashed, another strange energy rushed towards Lu Ming's soul, but it was blocked by the Jingyu painting. Lu Ming's soul wasn't affected at all. He attacked with all his might and blasted out his strongest move. Supernova. Lu Ming seized the opportunity and blasted out Supernova. A huge spear light rushed out and then exploded, forming a destructive force that rushed towards Yu Lian. Boom! Yu Lian was directly drowned by the destructive force and retreated. He only stopped after retreating for 1,000 meters. His body seemed to have shrunk a little, and there were waves of smoke that dissipated in the air. That was Yu Lian's soul power. Yu Lian's cultivation method was strange. His divine body wasn't strong, but his soul power was extremely strong. In the previous move, Yu Lian was severely injured. A large amount of his soul power was destroyed by Lu Ming, and his strength plummeted. Why? Why aren't you afraid of my soul attack? Yu Lian roared, somewhat in disbelief. Anyone who was attacked by his soul would tremble and their strength would weaken. But Lu Ming's strength didn't weaken at all just now. Just a small trick and you want to hurt me? Lu Ming said indifferently. When he said this, he was really pretentious. Humph, Lu Ming, I'll let you off today. Sooner or later, you'll die in my hands. Yu Lian said coldly, his face incomparably ferocious, very unwilling. However, he still planned to retreat. He would think of a way to kill Lu Ming another day. Unfortunately, Lu Ming didn't have the intention of letting him off. Want to leave? Did I say I'll let you go? Lu Ming sneered. Taking a step out, he directly crossed 1,000 meters. 9 nine-clawed dragons condensed and pounced towards Yu Lian from all directions. Swoosh! Swoosh! Yu Lian's figure flickered strangely, avoiding the attack of the divine dragon aspect. Kid, if I want to leave, no one can stop me. Yu Lian's disdainful voice was heard. Is that so? Lu Ming said indifferently. Suddenly, from all directions, ice chains flew out, forming a heavenly encirclement that enveloped heaven and earth. This was Lu Ming's ice shackles. When he spoke earlier, Lu Ming had already used the ice shackles. It was no longer an attack, but a trap. As soon as the ice chains appeared, the terrifying chill on them completely erupted. Ka ka ka, on the ground and even in the space, countless ice crystals appeared. The whole world seemed to have turned into a world of ice crystals. A layer of ice crystals also appeared on Yu Lian's body. Damn it! Yu Lian's face changed drastically. His figure flickered and he wanted to leave. However, the ice chains continued to revolve and the chill spread. More and more ice crystals appeared in the space, completely blocking Yu Lian's figure. Moreover, the chill kept surging towards Yu Lian, trying to freeze him. Just now, Yu Lian was injured by Lu Ming's exploding star move and his strength was greatly reduced. At this moment, he couldn't resist the chill emitted by the ice chains. He felt that the blood in his body was about to be frozen, and his speed was greatly reduced. Kill! Lu Ming rushed over and thrust out his long spear. In an instant, more than a dozen spear lights were stacked together and all of them hit Yu Lian. Yu Lian screamed. The dozen spear lights that Lu Ming blasted out were stacked together. How terrifying was that? Yu Lian's body exploded in an instant. The strange thing was that after Yu Lian's body exploded, it turned into countless ghostly shadows that were screaming and shouting. They were like countless vengeful spirits. How many people's souls has this guy swallowed? Lu Ming's eyes turned even colder. These vengeful spirits were most likely the souls that had been swallowed by the other party. At this moment, these vengeful spirits condensed again and turned back into Yu Lian's figure. However, at this moment, Yu Lian's aura was incomparably weak and dispirited. Compared to before, it was more than 10 times weaker, as if he would die at any time. His eyes were filled with incomparable horror. Still not dead? Your vitality is quite tenacious. Let's see if you can still survive with one more move. Lu Ming said coldly. Chapter 3049. Wait a minute, you can't kill me. I'm from the 9 Serenities Heavenly Residence, the 9 Serenities sect. You probably don't know how powerful the 9 Serenities Heavenly Residence is. If you kill me, the 9 Serenities Heavenly Residence will make you pay back tenfold. Yu Lian roared. The 9 Serenities Heavenly Residence was formerly known as the 9 Serenities sect. It was a terrifying and powerful sect with strange and cruel methods. Therefore, Yu Lian brought up the name of the 9 Serenities Heavenly Residence and even mentioned the name of the 9 Serenities sect to save his life. However, this move was ineffective against Lu Ming. Lu Ming had come all this way by stepping over the corpses of Sky Prides. How many Sky Prides had he killed? How many threats had he received? Therefore, Lu Ming was completely immune to such threats. Moreover, Yu Lian knew that he had mastered many kinds of divine powers. How could Lu Ming let him leave? You talk too much nonsense. Lu Ming said in disdain. His long spear slashed down and a crescent-shaped spear light landed on Yu Lian's body. Yu Lian screamed in pain and his body shattered into pieces, turning into vengeful spirits. They let out shrill cries and then slowly gathered together, trying to gather together again. His vitality is really strong. Star burst. There was a flash of surprise in Lu Ming's eyes. He then cast the exploding stars move. Boom! A spear light blasted out and then exploded. A destructive force enveloped all the vengeful spirits. Bang! 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 These vengeful spirits all exploded, turning into black smoke and disappearing. Yu Lian had completely vanished into thin air. Phew! Lu Ming heaved a sigh of relief. His body shrunk and returned to his normal form. This Yu Lian was really hard to kill. Among all the opponents that Lu Ming had encountered, he was definitely one of the most difficult to deal with. His attack power was actually not very strong, but his methods were strange. He could affect the soul and weaken the opponent's strength, then kill them. This time, if Lu Ming did not have Jing Yu's portrait, he would not be Yu Lian's opponent. The best result would be to run away. Then, Lu Ming walked towards the two small boxes. With a wave of his hand, he put away the two boxes and left in a flash. Not long after, Lu Ming found a quiet room. He swallowed a divine pill and began to regulate his breathing. When Lu Ming had almost recovered, Lu Ming took out the two boxes. On the box, there were lines of runes that formed a large formation. It was probably used to protect the things inside the box and prevent the loss of their spirituality. However, after so many years, the grand formation of the chest had already been worn down by the passage of time, and its light had already dimmed. Lu Ming channeled his divine power into the box, wanting to open it. The runes on the chest flickered with a dim light as they were slowly wiped out by Lu Ming's divine power. Not long after, the runes completely disappeared and Lu Ming opened the chest. Inside the box, there were some items neatly arranged. There was a pair of bracelets, a small tower, and a mirror, treasures, divine artifacts. Lu Ming's eyes lit up. These things should all be treasures of the divine artifact type. Lu Ming picked up a small tower and carefully channeled his divine power into it. Immediately, the small tower emitted a dazzling light and a powerful fluctuation spread out. There's still spirituality. Lu Ming was overjoyed. However, after careful observation, he discovered that these treasures did indeed have spirituality. However, due to the passage of time, even with the protection of the grand formation, much of their spirituality had been lost. At least 90% of it had been lost. They could barely be used. Although much of their spirituality has been lost, the materials used to create these treasures are no small matter. Even if they can't be of much use, I can still give them to Little Ball. I believe that Little Ball will benefit greatly from them. With this thought, Lu Ming smiled and continued to open the second box. The second box also contained some treasures. Like the first box, much of their spirituality had been lost. Lu Ming collected these treasures in a storage ring. He planned to slowly study them after leaving Star Moon Ancient City. If they were useful, he would keep them. If not, he would give them to Little Ball to eat. After putting them away, Lu Ming got up and left this place to continue exploring. However, Lu Ming did not find anything else. After going around and around, Lu Ming finally found another passage. He followed this passage and continued forward. There was nothing strange on the way. After passing through this passage, Lu Ming came to a platform. The platform was very large and many people had already gathered here. Lu Ming's gaze was attracted to the front. Because the front of the platform was chaotic, and there was no path. At this point, the road was cut off. What's going on? There's no path here. Is this the end? It shouldn't be. We've explored all the other places and found that they were all dead ends. Only this place has a passage. Logically speaking, there should be another path ahead. Many people were discussing. If the path ahead is blocked by this land of chaos, then I'll just have to blast this land of chaos apart. A youth walked to the front of the platform, circulated his divine power, and blasted out a few palms. A huge palm print was formed and blasted towards the chaotic land. However, the blurry mist rolled and the youth's palm power was like a stone sinking into the sea. It did not cause any waves. Again. The youth did not give up and continued to attack, but it was completely useless. Don't waste your energy. We've already tried. It's useless. Someone said. Obviously, some of the geniuses who had arrived early had already tried. Then what should we do? Someone asked. We can only wait now. I think that after a while, there might be changes. I think so too. Several youths spoke in succession. Everyone fell silent. Some people found a place to sit down and waited quietly. They had come here with great difficulty, and they were unwilling to leave just like that. Lu Ming also found a place to sit cross-legged. He comprehended divine power while waiting. In the blink of an eye, a few days passed. However, the chaotic land was still hazy and there was no change at all. As time passed, more and more young geniuses arrived. A month later, over 1,000 geniuses had gathered here. However, Lu Ming guessed that only a portion of the geniuses who had entered the castle had come here because many people did not see it. For example, Jin Yuan, Yu Han, Chu Baxing, and the others did not see it. However, Su Yan and the youth clad in beast skin were also here. Time passed quickly, and another month passed. To the gods, a few months passed in the blink of an eye. No one was impatient. There's movement over there. There's someone in the chaos. Suddenly, someone shouted. Everyone's gaze turned toward the chaos. Originally, that place was hazy and filled with gray mist, making it impossible to see what was inside. Previously, someone had even flown in to investigate, but it was boundless and they could not tell the direction. But at this moment, the fog was churning, and a figure was actually walking out from it. Chapter 30-50. The fog rolled and a figure walked out of it. It was an old man with white hair and a face full of wrinkles. He looked very old and was full of the aura of time. Just like that, he stood above the chaotic fog. It's not a physical body. Many people were surprised. Everyone could see that the old man was not made of flesh and blood, but was made of energy. Everyone's eyes were bright and they were all guessing who the old man was. Why did he walk out of the fog? Was he someone who had not died in Xingyue ancient city? Thinking of this, many people were shocked. If that was the case, then the old man's strength was terrifying. I am the spirit of the array here. The old man spoke and his voice spread throughout the place. It turned out to be the spirit of the array. Everyone was surprised and breathed a sigh of relief. It was not a living powerhouse as they had imagined. However, the spirit of the array was also terrifying. It was no small matter that the array was set up so long ago and there was still an array spirit left behind. Senior, why is there no path here? Someone asked. There is a path, but I have hidden it. The spirit of the array said. Why? Someone continued to ask. Because there are too many of you and too few paths. There is not enough space. The spirit of the array said. After that, he swept his gaze across the place and said, You are here for the Life Spirit Vitality Stone, right? Everyone was silent. They were indeed here for the Life Spirit Vitality Stone. The Life Spirit Vitality Stone that was guarded by so many people must be a priceless treasure. It seems that the others also know about the existence of the Life Spirit Vitality Stone through other channels. Lu Ming's heart skipped a beat and he looked at Su Yan and the others. That was because Su Yan and the others had not seen the scene in the secret room. It was conceivable that Su Yan and the others knew about the existence of the Life Spirit Vitality Stone through other channels. Perhaps, everyone who entered the castle would know about the existence of the Life Spirit Vitality Stone. Sure enough, the old man began to explain. In the distant past, there were guards stationed in every direction of this castle. Now, they're all dead, but they left behind projections. Time has passed quickly, and so many years have passed. The fact that you've made it here means that the destiny of the heavens has arrived. The time has come for the natal spirit stone to appear. The spirit of the array sighed. Everyone looked at the spirit of the array and did not speak, waiting for him to continue. So this time, I'll give you a chance. At this point, the array spirit waved its hand and the chaotic fog began to churn violently. Then, a small path appeared in the fog and extended into the depths of the fog. It was unknown where it led. There were a total of 18 paths. As long as you walk the path to the end, the person who reaches the end will obtain the Life Spirit Origin Stone. However, after you walk the path, you will face a great battle. The Array Spirit said. Just us? Su Yan asked. Of course not, Yang Qi said. You're only from one of the directions. The people from the other directions will compete in the same way. Once you enter the primal chaos mist, you'll be able to meet them. The Array Spirit said. Also, only one person is allowed to enter each of the 18 paths. With that, he waved his hand and 18 beads appeared in his hand, emitting a dazzling light. These 18 beads are the guides. Only those who have the guides can walk on one of the paths. Those who enter without the guides will die here. Having said that, the real dragon waved his hand and the 18 beads flew out in all directions of the platform. Guides? We need the guides to go up and compete? In other words, only 18 people can walk on these paths? Many people were still digesting the information that the old man had just said. The 18 beads had already flown over. I want one of these guides. Those with quick reflexes dashed toward one of the beads. Me too. This one is mine. Immediately, the rest of the people came to their senses and rushed towards the 18 round pearls. Get lost. The young man in beast skin had a berserk aura. He was like a wild beast that had gone berserk. His body carried a desolate and ancient aura. Once he attacked, he tore a few young men apart. He reached out his hand and grabbed a bead. He was a prodigy who had awakened the origin divine power factor. No one dared to compete with him and he became the first person to obtain the bead. The other one, Su Yan, was also powerful. However, his attacks were not as domineering. A few punches made the young men vomit blood, but he did not kill them. He also obtained a bead. Lu Ming also moved. The moment the round beads flew out, he soared into the sky and dashed toward one of the round beads. He had cast the 9 heavens Kuan-Peng technique and his speed was amazing. Before the others dashed over, he had already grabbed a round bead in his hands. Let go of the guides. With a loud roar, a young man slammed his palm towards Lu Ming. The palm print whistled as if it could topple mountains and trample seas. Get lost. Lu Ming shouted coldly. He turned around and pulled out his spear. Boom! The huge spear radiance shattered the opponent's palm print and bombarded his body. The opponent coughed out blood and retreated. Whoosh! Whoosh! Boom! Boom! However, several other young men rushed towards Lu Ming from other directions. There were thousands of prodigies at the scene, but there were only 18 beads. A large number of people were fighting for each bead. One could imagine how fierce the competition was. It seems that I can't suppress these people if I don't use some tricks. Lu Ming's eyes turned cold. He activated the battle formula and quadrupled his combat strength. His aura skyrocketed. Whoosh! Whoosh! In an instant, Lu Ming thrust his spear more than 10 times. More than 10 spear gleams burst out and were extremely dazzling. 7 to 8 young men who pounced on Lu Ming had their bodies pierced and were sent flying far away. They spat out mouthfuls of blood and their eyes were filled with horror. Lu Ming had already shown mercy. Otherwise, these people would have been dead. Seeing how powerful Lu Ming was, some of the people who wanted to fight for the beads hesitated and retreated to fight for the other beads. Lu Ming's figure flashed and flew towards one of the paths. He landed on it smoothly. Su Yan and the young man in the animal skin coat landed on the path earlier than Lu Ming. The two of them landed on the path earlier than Lu Ming. Out of the 18 paths, 3 of them occupied Lu Ming. On the platform, the remaining people fought fiercely for the remaining 15 beads. It was extremely tragic. People were constantly being killed and died here. Finally, there was a powerful person who managed to snatch a bead after a bloody battle and set foot on a path. After a few moments of fighting, hundreds of prodigies had fallen. The 18 beads all had owners. Each of the 18 paths was occupied by a person. All right, you can set off. Follow this path and keep going forward. The array spirit instructed. Chapter 30:51. The formation spirit instructed the 18 people who had obtained the guide to walk along the path under their feet. I want to go too. I don't believe that I can't go up without a guide. Someone roared, unwilling to give up just like that. He rushed towards one of the lower paths and landed on that small path. However, as soon as he landed on the path lit up and a ball of white light shrouded him. He immediately let out a shrill scream and his body turned into ashes in the white light, leaving nothing behind. The others were shocked and sucked in a breath of cold air. Sure enough, they couldn't go up without a guide. Otherwise, it would be a dead end. The remaining people secretly rejoiced. Originally, many people who didn't obtain a guide also wanted to rush up and give it a try. Fortunately, they were a step too late. Otherwise, they would be the ones dead. Now, they could only look at Lu Ming and the others enviously. Lu Ming and the others stepped forward and walked along the path. Soon, their figures disappeared in the thick fog. Lu Ming continued walking. Gradually, he couldn't see the others anymore. All he could see was the path that stretched forward under his feet and the thick fog around him. This path was very long. Lu Ming walked for half an hour but still didn't reach the end. Lu Ming continued to walk forward patiently. After another half an hour, he didn't know how many miles he had walked before the path finally came to an end. At the end of the path, there was a platform that was suspended in the chaotic fog. Lu Ming came to the path and found nothing. Do I have to wait here? Lu Ming pondered. Then, he sat cross-legged and waited quietly. Lu Ming didn't have to wait for too long. Soon, the fog rolled on one side of the platform. A small path extended from the fog and finally connected to the platform under Lu Ming's feet. After a while, a young man walked along the path and came to the platform. As soon as the young man came to the platform, he looked at Lu Ming with sharp eyes. The two of you can fight. Only the winner can continue. A voice suddenly sounded. It was the spirit's voice. So this is the way to compete. Lu Ming's heart stirred. Lu Ming didn't recognize the young man in front of him. He wasn't one of the 18 people who had received the travel permit. Obviously, he had come from a different direction. The array spirit wanted to use this method to randomly let people from the two paths meet and then have a battle. The winner would continue to move forward. Lu Ming had encountered this kind of method before. It had one use, which was that you didn't know who your next opponent would be. Are you going to scram by yourself, or do you want me to kick you out? The young man looked at Lu Ming and said coldly. He didn't put Lu Ming in his eyes at all. After he entered the castle, he didn't walk in the same direction as Lu Ming. Naturally, he hadn't seen Lu Ming in action and didn't know how powerful Lu Ming was. In his senses, Lu Ming was merely a 5th-level celestial god. How powerful could a 5th-level celestial god be? This is exactly what I wanted to say to you. Lu Ming said indifferently. Stubborn. Seems like you want to force me to make a move. Kid, once I make a move, do you know the consequences? The young man's voice was even colder. Cold light flashed in his eyes with a hint of threat. If Lu Ming could scram by himself, it would save him the trouble of making a move and he could also save some energy. After all, according to the rules, there would definitely be a big battle ahead. Although Lu Ming was only a 5th-level celestial god, he would still need to expend some energy. That was why he threatened Lu Ming and asked Lu Ming to scram by himself. You talk too much. Lu Ming was getting impatient. He took a step forward and activated the battle formula to increase his combat strength by 4 times. His fists struck out continuously. Roar, 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 dragon roars could be heard continuously. Nine-clawed dragons were formed and pounced towards the young man with a terrifying aura. Your strength. Sensing the terrifying aura of the nine-clawed dragons, the young man's face changed and was filled with disbelief. As soon as Lu Ming made a move, he felt a strong sense of danger. Boom! He attacked with everything he had, his god power erupting like a volcano. He punched out a few times, and each time he punched out, an eagle would fly out. He punched out a dozen times in a row, and more than a dozen eagles appeared, which then pounced on the nine-clawed divine dragons. The young man was also very strong. He was a half-step divine king and his divine energy had awakened to 99%. If he didn't have such strength, he wouldn't have been able to get a guide and set foot on the path. He fought fiercely with Lu Ming and resisted Lu Ming's attacks for a while. Lu Ming didn't use his ancient god body. It would be difficult for him to deal with such an expert. Ice chains. Lu Ming's mind stirred. 9 ice chains danced in the air, entangling the other party. At the same time, Lu Ming raised his long spear and charged towards the young man. Lu Ming continuously used the divine dragon aspect art, ice chains, and 3 strokes of destruction. His attacks were like a storm, wave after wave. Finally, the young man couldn't withstand it anymore. After barely holding on for more than 10 moves, he was hit by Lu Ming's spear. Blood spurted out of his mouth and he was sent flying towards the platform. As soon as the young man was sent flying off the platform, the path he was walking on retracted from the platform. He caught the young man and retreated back to his original spot. This meant that the young man was eliminated. In front of Lu Ming's platform, another path appeared and continued to extend forward. Then let's continue. Lu Ming's eyes were firm and filled with battle intent. If this continued, he would probably encounter skyprides like Jin Yuan, Chu Baxing, and Yu Han. Lu Ming wasn't afraid of the battle. He was even looking forward to it. This time, it didn't take long before another platform appeared in front of Lu Ming. Lu Ming continued to wait on the platform. Not long after, a path extended and connected to Lu Ming's platform. Then, a young and beautiful woman walked up. It's you. When the lady saw Lu Ming, her expression changed drastically and she became very ugly. This woman was one of the 18 people who set off with Lu Ming. She had seen Lu Ming fight before. She was no match for Lu Ming. What a coincidence, beautiful. Why? Do you want to fight? Lu Ming smiled. Young master, you're a man. Can't you go easy on me? The lady broke into a smile and blinked at Lu Ming. She was extremely flirtatious. You don't have to use this trick on me. My wife is much prettier than you, so this trick won't work on me. Lu Ming continued to smile. You're talking nonsense. The woman's face turned red with anger. She had always been conceited about her beauty. Countless young men flocked to her. Now, Lu Ming was treating her with such an attitude. He even said that his wife was much prettier than her. How could she not be angry? She thought that Lu Ming was lying. Nonsense? I'm not talking nonsense. I'm telling the truth. You want to fight, right? Come on, I won't go easy on you. Lu Ming said with a ferocious look in his eyes. Chapter 3052. In the end, the lady decided to back off. She did not dare to fight with Lu Ming. She knew that she was no match for Lu Ming. There was no point in asking for trouble. Gritting her teeth, the lady retreated from the platform and returned to the path. The path shrank and disappeared. That was easy. Lu Ming smiled. There was another path in front of the platform. Lu Ming continued to walk along the path. However, there was a change this time. After Lu Ming walked for a while, the surrounding fog began to fade. Slowly, the fog became thinner and thinner. In the end, the fog completely disappeared. The path under his feet appeared in the void. In the next moment, Lu Ming's eyes flashed. He saw other people in other directions. There were other paths in different directions as well. There was a young sky pride on each path. Jinyuan, Chu Baxing, Su Yan, Yu Han, Lu Ming swept his gaze across and saw many familiar faces. There were a total of 10 people including him. All of them were top-notch sky prides. Other than himself, the others had awakened their origin source divine power factor. They were also the strongest group of people who had entered this place. 9 Nether Heavenly King residents originally had 3 sky prides of this level. However, one of them was killed by Lu Ming. Now, only 2 of them had made it here. 9 Sabers Heavenly King residents had 4 people. 9 Sabers Heavenly King residents had 4 people including Lu Ming. Lu Ming, Jinyuan, Su Yan, and the young man in the animal skin coat. There was a path under each of their feet. However, the path stopped here and did not continue. There was a platform high above their heads. It looked very old. Could it be that the Life Spirit Vitality Stone is up there? The thought flashed through everyone's mind. Their eyes were burning with passion. At that moment, there was a flash of light on the platform. A white-haired elder appeared. It was Zhenling. Zhenling looked at everyone and said, "All right, you are the last 10 people who made it here." The last 10 people? As soon as Zhenling finished speaking, the 10 of them looked at each other and sized each other up. More people's gazes landed on Lu Ming. They were shocked and surprised. He actually made it here? Strange. Several people whispered. This kid, Chu Baxing, was also surprised. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Why didn't Yu Lian come here? Could he have been defeated? The 2 sky prides of the 9th Hell Heavenly King Mansion began to converse. Among these people, who can defeat Yu Lian? Yu Han's eyes flickered as he glanced at the other geniuses. However, he directly ignored Lu Ming. It was already a miracle that Lu Ming could make it this far. He did not believe that Lu Ming could defeat Yu Lian. That was completely impossible. Instead, he glanced at Chu Baxing, Lu Ji, and the others. Only these few people had the possibility of defeating Yu Lian. Everyone had different thoughts in their minds, but the array spirit continued to speak. The natal spirit stone is right here. These words made the eyes of Lu Ming and the others even brighter. Some people even tried to rush up to the high platform, but they found that there was a force in the void pressing down on them, making it impossible for them to do so. Don't waste your energy. You won't be able to get up there. If you want to get the natal spirit stone, you have to fight your way up. Next, the 10 of you will fight in pairs. Only the strongest will be able to step onto the high platform and obtain the natal spirit stone. Zhenling said. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. It seemed that they would only be able to obtain the treasure by defeating the other geniuses. Next, whichever path you take, you will fight it out. However, I have to remind you that you can surrender before the battle, but once the battle starts, you can't surrender. Only one of you can survive. As Zhenling finished speaking, a cold murderous intent flashed in his eyes. Everyone's heart skipped a beat. They could surrender before the battle, but once the battle started, only one of them could survive. This was a battle of life and death. What a cruel rule. So, you'd better think carefully before you start the battle. Now, let's begin. Zhenling said. As soon as he finished speaking, 2 of the paths started to extend and eventually met in the air, forming a huge fighting ring. Lu Ming's gaze landed on the prodigies on both paths. One of them was a genius from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion, while the other was a genius from the 9 Sabers Heavenly King Mansion. Come on. The genius from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion moved and landed on the fighting ring. He looked down at the genius from the 9 Sabers Heavenly King Mansion and said, "Kid, come on up. Your soul is mine." The genius from the 9 Sabers Heavenly King Mansion looked grave. Among these people, the one he did not want to meet the most was the one from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion. The people from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion's attacks were too strange. Are you going to fight or not? Zhenling looked at the genius from the Nine Sabers' Heavenly King Mansion and asked. Fight! In the end, the genius from the Nine Sabers' Heavenly King Mansion shouted coldly. He took a step forward and appeared on the fighting ring. As a saber wielder, he had enough confidence in himself. A saber wielder had to show off his abilities and would never back down. Moreover, he did not believe that all the geniuses from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion were as strong as Yuhan. As soon as the genius from the Nine Sabers' Heavenly King Mansion landed on the fighting ring started to glow. A light shield covered the entire fighting ring. Begin. Zhenling announced. Kid, go to hell. Ha ha ha. The genius from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion laughed maliciously. In a flash, he charged toward the genius from the Nine Sabers' Heavenly King Mansion like a phantom. Acheron 3 Sabers, Blue Sky Acheron. The genius from the Nine Sabers' Heavenly King Mansion shouted coldly. He unsheathed his saber and slashed out a few times. A few rays of yellow saber radiance shot into the sky and slashed toward the genius from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion. The moment the genius from the Nine Sabers' Heavenly King Mansion attacked, he displayed his powerful strength. A few rays of saber radiance shrouded the genius from the Nine Sabers' Heavenly King Mansion. Child's play. The genius from the Nine Sabers' Heavenly King Mansion said coldly. His body flickered like a phantom. In an instant, he dodged a few rays of saber radiance and continued to charge toward his opponent. Nine Sabers' Ghost Claw. A ghost claw was formed and charged toward the genius from the Nine Sabers' Heavenly King Mansion at an alarming speed. Saber Wall Technique. The genius from the Nine Sabers' Heavenly King Mansion shouted angrily. His saber shook violently and countless rays of saber radiance shot out, forming a wall of saber radiance. Boom! The Nine Sabers' Heavenly King Mansion's genius Nine Sabers' Ghost Claw clawed at the wall of saber, causing it to shake violently. A strange force penetrated the wall of saber and rushed into the genius from the Nine Sabers' Heavenly King Mansion. The genius from the Nine Sabers' Heavenly King Mansion's body shook violently. His aura suddenly weakened and the power of the saber wall was greatly reduced. His opponent's Nine Sabers' Ghost Claw seized the opportunity to break through. Chapter 3053. Lu Ming could see that the power that the abysmal Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius cultivated was similar to Yu Lian and Yuhan. It was extremely strange and could affect one's soul. It was obvious that the Nine Blades Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius soul was affected by his opponent's power, causing his strength to weaken instantly. In a battle between experts, the slightest flaw could be fatal. The abysmal Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius abysmal ghost claw broke through his opponent's saber wall and clawed at him. Roar! The Nine Blades Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius roared and his divine power erupted like a volcano. He retreated quickly, but he was too late. The abysmal ghost claw swept past him and a piece of flesh was torn off his body. He, you can't run away. Die. The abysmal Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius sneered and continued to attack his opponent. Acheron 3 Sabers, Acheron Sunset. The Nine Blades Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius roared and his body emitted a dazzling radiance. Then, all the radiance gathered on his saber and he slashed it out. Then, a yellow blazing sun appeared in the sky. The sun was extremely bright and was formed by saber radiance. It emitted a terrifying fluctuation and charged at the abysmal Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius. The supreme talent from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion finally looked serious. His body emitted a mist that was filled with ghostly cries and howls. It was as if there were countless vengeful spirits wailing at the same time. Then, in a flash, he charged at the Nine Blades Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius. Boom! The saber radiance that was like the sun fell and the void shook. The abysmal Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius moved quickly. In an instant, he had moved tens of thousands of times and dissipated a large amount of energy. At the same time, many of the vengeful spirits around him were destroyed. However, this also helped the abysmal Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius block part of the energy. Then, the abysmal Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius approached the Nine Blades Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius and clawed at him with his abysmal ghost claw. Unavoidably, the Nine Blades Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius soul was affected and his aura weakened. Die! The abysmal Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius roared and clawed at him. Poof! Half of the Nine Blades Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius body was torn apart. Blood splattered everywhere. It was a horrible sight. The Nine Blades Heavenly Lord Mansion's genius shrieked in pain and retreated. His expression was extremely ugly as he frantically retreated. However, the prodigies of the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion were obviously faster. The people from the Nine Blades Heavenly King residence are dead meat. Lu Ming thought to himself. Although the prodigy from the Nine Underworld Heavenly King Mansion was not as powerful as Yu Han, he was on par with Yu Lian. However, the prodigy from the Nine Sabers Heavenly King Mansion was weaker than Lu Ji. Naturally, he was no match for Lu Ji. If he was injured now, only death awaited him. I admit defeat. The geniuses from the Nine Sabers Heavenly King residence looked terrified as they rushed out of the fighting ring. However, when he reached the edge of the fighting ring, he was blocked by the light shield. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't break it. Let me out, I admit defeat, I admit defeat. Nine Blades Heavenly King residents roared madly. I've said it before. Before the battle, you can admit defeat. Once the battle begins, you will have to fight to the death. Do you think my words are nonsense? The array spirit said coldly. He, die. The prodigy from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion sneered and attacked fiercely. The prodigy from the Nine Sabers Heavenly King Mansion was in despair as he tried his best to fight back. However, he was severely injured and his strength was greatly reduced. Even if he tried his best, what use would it be? After a few moves, the prodigy from the Nine Sabers Heavenly King Mansion let out a cry of despair as his head was pierced through. Then, his soul was pulled out and he struggled violently. The prodigy from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion was filled with greed as he opened his mouth and swallowed his opponent's soul. His screams stopped abruptly. The prodigy from the Nine Sabers Heavenly King Mansion, who had awakened his origin source divine force at the half-step Supreme God realm, had fallen just like that. Even his soul had become someone's food. He, delicious, really delicious. The soul of a peerless prodigy is indeed delicious. It's intoxicating. The prodigy from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion let out a sharp cry. At the scene, the other people's expressions were very unsightly, and they all revealed grave expressions. The secret skills that the prodigy from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion practiced were too strange. Even though their cultivation levels were similar, they were often no match for each other. Everyone was thinking about how they should deal with the prodigy from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion. The prodigy from the Nine Sabers Heavenly King Mansion had fallen. His path disappeared and the prodigy from the abysmal Heavenly King Mansion returned to his path. The battle platform in the sky disappeared. In the next moment, the other two paths began to extend and intersect in the sky, forming a new battle platform. It's my turn. What a coincidence. Lu Ming's lips curled into a cold smile. This time, one of the two paths was his, and the other was Jin Yuan's. He had met Jin Yuan again. Jin Yuan's face darkened when he saw that his opponent was Lu Ming. The rest of the people also looked at Jin Yuan and Lu Ming. Jin Yuan is quite lucky to have met this fifth-layer heavenly god trash. He won for nothing. Chu Baxing muttered with disdain. In addition, Yu Han, Lu Ji, and the rest had similar thoughts. They reckoned that Lu Ming would admit defeat directly. However, in the next moment, their eyes widened in surprise. Lu Ming stepped out and landed on the battle platform. He dares to accept the challenge? Many people were shocked. Once the battle started, it would be a life-and-death battle. Lu Ming dared to accept a life-and-death battle with Jin Yuan. However, what surprised them even more was that Jin Yuan stood on the path and did not step onto the battle platform. Jin Yuan, do you want to fight or not? Decide quickly. Don't waste time here. Lu Ming looked at Jin Yuan and said coldly. You can admit defeat before the battle. The formation spirit added. Jin Yuan's face darkened. After a while, he finally gritted his teeth and said, I admit defeat. Gold Ingot admitted defeat. Before this, he had fought with Lu Ming at the Myriad God Cliff. In the end, he was defeated by Lu Ming and had to run away. He was no match for Lu Ming last time, and he was no match for him in this battle. Wasn't he courting death in a life and death battle? Of course he had to admit defeat. However, the rest of the people were stunned and looked at Jin Yuan in bewilderment. Jin Yuan actually admitted defeat to a fifth-layer heavenly god? It wouldn't be strange if Jin Yuan admitted defeat to people like Yu Han and Chu Baxing, but now, he admitted defeat to a fifth-layer heavenly god? They couldn't figure it out. Even Su Yan, the young man in the beast skin coat, who was also from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King Palace, was surprised. He couldn't figure out what Jin Yuan was up to. Ha ha ha, Jin Yuan, you're really trash. You don't even dare to fight a fifth-layer heavenly god and admit defeat. Trash is trash. Chu Baxing roared with laughter, his voice filled with mockery. Chapter 3054. Chu Baxing's mocking voice reverberated throughout the area. Jin Yuan clenched his fists, his face dark. Someone actually compared you to me. Jin Yuan, you're not even fit to carry my shoes. Chu Baxing continued. Humph, Chu Baxing, don't get too full of yourself. Jin Yuan suddenly raised his head and looked at Chu Baxing, then pointed at Lu Ming. This person is a rare genius of my 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence. His battle prowess is unparalleled, and he's invincible among those of the same level. No, let alone those of the same level, he can even defeat those of a higher level. I admit that I'm not his match. That's why, Chu Baxing, you better surrender when you meet him. Otherwise, you'll lose your life. What? Gold Ingot's words shocked the others. Lu Ming defeated Jin Yuan with his 5th-level celestial god cultivation. How was that possible? Su Yan, who was also from the 9-Ju Heavenly King Mansion, and the young man in the beast skin coat were shocked. They had not heard of Lu Ming's name before. They only knew that Lu Ming had passed the heavenly gates. Ha ha ha, Jin Yuan, are you joking? Why would I surrender to a 5th-level celestial god? Chu Baxing laughed heartily. I know, Jin Yuan. You're trying to scare me into surrendering without a fight. You know that you're no match for me, so you're trying to use such a method to make me surrender? Ridiculous. The two of you are from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence. You must be in cahoots with each other to scare us and get the vitality stones. However, your method is too low class. His words made the others' eyes light up as they nodded inwardly. They also believed Chu Baxing's words. They thought that Lu Ming and Jin Yuan were in cahoots to scare the others. They wanted to subdue them without a fight and obtain the life spirit vitality stone easily. But how was that possible? Jin Yuan's face darkened, but he didn't say a word. His motive was not to scare the other party, but to do so on purpose. If Lu Ming were to meet Chu Baxing, he could force them to fight. He was afraid that Chu Baxing would admit defeat. There was no way Chu Baxing would concede unless Lu Ming did. Lu Ming glanced at Jin Yuan indifferently. He knew exactly what Gold Ingot was thinking. However, Lu Ming was too lazy to explain. If he really did encounter Chu Baxing, Lu Ming wanted to kill him too. Previously, Chu Baxing had attacked Lu Ming as soon as he saw Lu Ming. Later, the Chu clan's people even wanted to kill Lu Ming. This had already infuriated Lu Ming. Therefore, Lu Ming remained silent. Chu Baxing was even more convinced that he had guessed correctly, and began to chuckle coldly. Lu Ming returned to his own path, and the battle platform disappeared. However, Jin Yuan did not leave this place. Only the path under his feet had shrunk back a little, making him shorter than the others. This meant that he had lost the battle. However, he could still watch the battle from here for the time being. After Lu Ming and the others retreated, two more paths extended out and intersected in the air to form a battle platform. This time, one of them was Yuhan. The other was the young man clad in animal skin from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence. Whoosh! Yuhan's figure flashed as he rushed onto the battle platform. He looked at the young man clad in animal skin with fiery eyes and said, "Kid, come up and fight me." "I surrender." The young man clad in animal skin shook his head and admitted defeat. If he had encountered someone else, he might have fought them as a form of training. However, against Yuhan, he immediately surrendered. Outside the castle, even Chu Baxing was no match for Yuhan. It was only after Lu Ji joined forces with Chu Baxing that they managed to resist Yuhan. If he fought Yuhan, he would only die. Why should he fight again? Humph, what a piece of trash. You don't even dare to fight me. Yuhan snorted, somewhat displeased. He still wanted to kill a genius and devour his soul. The young man in animal skin surrendered. The path under his feet shrunk back to the same height as Jin Yuan. As for Yuhan, he also retreated. Then, there were two small paths that converged together. This time, one of them was Chu Baxing, and the other was another genius from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence. The young man glanced at Chu Baxing and said, "I surrender." As a genius from the 9 Sabers Heavenly King manor, he had exchanged blows with Chu Baxing more than once. He knew how powerful Chu Baxing was. Although Chu Baxing had been suppressed by Yuhan earlier, that was only because Yuhan countered his attacks. If they were to fight to the death, Chu Baxing wouldn't necessarily lose. Chu Baxing's expression did not change. Evidently, he already knew that his opponent would surrender. Then, it was time for the 5th battle. This battle was between Su Yan from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence and Lu Ji from the 9 Extinction Heavenly King residence. What a coincidence. The two of them had fought outside the castle before, but there was no clear winner. Now, they met again. Lu Ji's figure flashed and appeared on the battle platform. His gaze was sharp, and saber light flashed in his eyes. He stared at Su Yan and said, "Su Yan, do you dare to fight to the death?" "Why wouldn't I?" Su Yan stepped forward and landed on the battle platform. In an instant, a light barrier enveloped the entire battle platform. "Very well. Su Yan, I will step on your bones and break through to the Divine King realm." Lu Ji's battle-intent soared. "That's what I wanted to say. After killing you and leaving Star Moon Ancient City, I will be able to break through to the Divine King realm," Su Yan said. Their cultivation was at the half-step Divine King realm, and they had been at the half-step Divine King realm for a long time. However, it was not easy to break through to the Divine King realm. Only by experiencing life and death battles and bitter tempering would they be able to make breakthroughs faster. This time, with Yuhan and Chu Baxing around, Su Yan, Lu Ji and the others knew that they would not be able to obtain the Life Spirit Origin Stone. However, they did not give up immediately. They chose to fight to train themselves. Of course, if the difference in strength was too great, there was no need to fight. It would be courting death. For example, Su Yan and Lu Ji had similar strength. If they fought to the death, the one who survived would be able to evolve. That was why they chose to fight to the death. "Let's begin," the formation spirit announced. Boom! Boom! As soon as the formation spirit's voice fell, the two of them exploded, turning into two rays of light that clashed against each other. Lu Ji's saber skills were unparalleled. His attack power was shocking as he slashed out terrifying saber rays. On the other hand, Su Yan's entire body was covered in a layer of stone armor. Every punch he threw out was like an ancient divine mountain. It was incomparably ferocious, and his strength was also extremely powerful. The two of them engaged in an intense battle. It was difficult to tell who would win. Compared to the battle outside the castle, it was more intense and tragic. This was a life and death battle. There was no way out for them. Only by killing their opponent would they be able to survive. The two of them fought fiercely. At the end of the battle, both of them were covered in blood and were heavily injured. P.S. Readers, I am the shepherd boy Tingzhu. I recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, 0 ads, and multiple reading modes. Chapter 3055. Su Yan and Lu Ji exchanged hundreds of blows. Both of them were severely injured, but their eyes were filled with unwavering faith and unyielding fighting spirit. They only had one goal now, and that was to kill each other. The loser would die. The winner might be able to achieve a transformation. Boom! The two of them clashed again. Lu Ji slashed out rays of saber radiance that collided with Su Yan's fist force. The fighting ring shook and energy overflowed. At this moment, Su Yan's body trembled as if he could not withstand the attack. The fist force collapsed. Lu Ji's eyes lit up and he attacked fiercely with his saber. Puff! Lu Ji's saber slashed at Su Yan's body, splitting the stone armor on Su Yan's body. The saber chi penetrated his bones. However, Su Yan still managed to defend himself. Oh no! At this moment, Lu Ji's expression changed drastically. He realized that something was wrong, but it was too late. Boom! Su Yan suddenly exploded and threw out a terrifying punch. The fist force penetrated through and hit Lu Ji's body. Lu Ji's body was directly penetrated. A large hole was blasted open, and the front and back of his body were visible. Lu Ji spat out a mouthful of blood as his body flew out and landed on the fighting ring. He could not move for a while. Su Yan also spat out a mouthful of blood, but his injuries were much lighter than Lu Ji's. Just now, he had purposely exposed an opening so that Lu Ji could land a blow on him. This was also because of him. Normal people would not dare to do this at all. Su Yan only dared to do this because his defense was extremely strong. In the end, he paid the price of serious injuries and completely defeated Lu Ji. Bam! Bam! Su Yan dragged his bloodied body and walked towards Lu Ji step by step. Every step he took left a footprint on the ground. Ha ha ha, this is great, Lu Ji suddenly laughed and struggled to get up. He looked at Su Yan and said, "This is a great battle, but unfortunately, I lost. Since I lost, I will die. Come on, let me die. You are a worthy opponent. Rest in peace," Su Yan said. Then, his aura burst out and a mountainous fist force blasted towards Lu Ji. The fist force crushed Lu Ji's body, and his body and soul were completely destroyed. Lu Ji had fallen. Not everyone was afraid of death. Lu Ji was prepared to be killed the moment he stepped onto the battle stage. "Take care," Su Yan muttered. Then, he retracted his aura. Unable to hold on any longer, he sat down on the ground, took out a bullet and swallowed it. Although Su Yan was heavily injured in this battle, Lu Ming felt that Su Yan might be able to break through to the God King realm very quickly after this battle. Lu Ji's path disappeared along with the battle platform. Su Yan sat cross-legged on his own path. The first round was over. Of the 10 geniuses, only 5 remained. Of the other 5, 2 were killed, and 3 admitted defeat. The 5 of you will also fight randomly. The array spirit looked at Lu Ming and the others. "I forfeit." At this moment, Su Yan spoke. He was severely injured and had no strength to continue fighting. Moreover, he had gained enough from the battle just now. There was no need for him to fight again. "Alright, you're allowed to forfeit. There are only 4 people left," the array spirit said. The remaining 4 were Lu Ming, Chu Baxing, Yu Han, and a genius from the 9th Abyss Heavenly King residence. Sparks flew as the 4 of them looked at each other. This was especially true for Chu Baxing and Yu Han, both of whom were filled with fighting spirit. In Chu Baxing's eyes, his greatest opponent was Yu Han. Previously, he was completely suppressed by Yuhan outside the castle. However, he still had a trump card that he did not use. Otherwise, he might have been able to fight Yuhan. It was hard to say who would die. At this moment, the array spirit waved its hand. Two paths extended quickly and merged together to form a battle stage. Lu Ming and Chu Baxing. The two paths were Lu Ming and Chu Baxing. Boom! Chu Baxing stepped out and landed on the battle stage. Ha ha ha, kid, I finally met you. Come on, if you have the guts, come and fight me. Chu Baxing laughed. You're not surrendering? Lu Ming asked. Surrendering? Ha ha ha, what a joke. Don't try to scare me with such a stupid method. I'm not scared. Chu Baxing laughed. He had always thought that Jin Yuan's surrender was intentional. He had colluded with Lu Ming to scare them. Moreover, even if Lu Ming was strong, what did he have to fear? The others also looked at Lu Ming curiously. They wondered how Lu Ming would get out of this situation. In their opinion, Lu Ming had dug a hole for himself. If he fought, he would lose his life against Chu Baxing. If he didn't, he would become a joke. Very well. Lu Ming sneered coldly. With a flash, he appeared in the fighting ring. He actually accepted the challenge. Yu Han, Su Yan, and the others were stunned. Obviously, this was beyond their expectations. They did not expect Lu Ming to accept the challenge. In their opinion, Lu Ming could not scare Chu Baxing and would probably admit defeat. This kid, does he really have the strength? The thought flashed through everyone's mind. Only Jin Yuan's eyes flashed coldly. This was exactly what he wanted. He would be happy no matter who lost in the life and death battle between Lu Ming and Chu Baxing. Of course, he still hoped that Lu Ming would be killed. After all, Lu Ming had killed a genius of the Jin clan. You've got guts. Chu Baxing narrowed his eyes. Obviously, Lu Ming's acceptance of the challenge was also beyond his expectations. He thought that Lu Ming would admit defeat. When Lu Ming stepped on the battle stage, a light barrier rose around the battle stage and covered it. Begin. The formation genie announced. Kill. As soon as the formation genie's voice faded, Chu Baxing attacked. His armor shone brightly and a sharp spear light shot out, piercing towards Lu Ming. Sky Piercer. Lu Ming activated his quadruple battle prowess and used the Sky Piercer move. He also thrust out his spear and a spear light collided with Chu Baxing's attack. Like two meteors colliding, a violent wave of energy erupted. You're also a spear user. Let me see what you've got. 1,000-pound strike. Chu Baxing stepped forward. His aura was like a mountain and his divine power erupted like a volcano. His aura was terrifyingly strong. Boom! He thrust out his spear and a huge spear light covered the entire battle stage, pressing down on Lu Ming. This move was a few times stronger than the previous spear. Even a half-step God King would be killed by this move if they had not awakened their divine origin divine force. Many people stared at Lu Ming. They wanted to see how Lu Ming, a fifth-layer heaven god, would deal with this move. Roar. With a roar, Lu Ming's body expanded rapidly. In the blink of an eye, he turned into a green-armored ancient god that was a few hundred meters tall. Then, he swept out his spear, which was also incomparably huge, and collided with Chu Baxing's spear light. P.S. Readers, I'm the shepherd boy Ting Zhu. I recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, zero ads, and multiple reading modes. Chapter 3056. Lu Ming didn't dare to be careless in the face of Chu Baxing's all-out attack. He transformed into a green-armored ancient god and swung his spear at Chu Baxing. The two huge spear lights collided. Boom! The battle stage was constantly shaking as if two planets were colliding. Violent energy swept out in all directions. Countless tiny spear lights shot out in all directions, but they were blocked by the light shield on the battle stage. Lu Ming and Chu Baxing's bodies trembled and they retreated simultaneously. A green-armored ancient god. Chu Baxing roared, his face contorted in shock. It's a green-armored ancient god. He's so strong. He actually blocked Chu Baxing's attack. Around them, Su Yan and the rest were taken aback. One after another, they looked at Lu Ming with grave gazes. Lu Ming had cultivated to the level of a green-armored ancient deity, and his combat strength was so strong that he could even fight against Chu Baxing. Chu Baxing, is this all you've got? Lu Ming said disdainfully. Lu Ming, your strength is indeed beyond my expectations, but you're still far from being my match. Chu Baxing snorted coldly. His armor shone with a dazzling light, making him look like a star. Boom! He stepped out like a giant, charging toward Lu Ming. The spear gleam was like a mountain, shaking the void. Die! Lu Ming wasn't afraid at all. He brandished his spear and charged at Chu Baxing. Nine-clawed dragon formed in the void and pounced at Chu Baxing. Boom! 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 The two clashed again. This time, both of them were mentally prepared. They pushed their strength to the limit and continued to attack. In the blink of an eye, they had exchanged dozens of blows. It was difficult to determine the winner. Strike of the war god. Chu Baxing roared and unleashed his most powerful attack. A huge god of war appeared in the fighting ring. He thrust his spear at Lu Ming at an extremely fast speed. Lu Ming felt a terrifying force rushing towards him. This force had locked onto him, making it difficult for him to dodge. He could only take it head-on. Supernova! Lu Ming bellowed as all the divine power in his body gathered towards the long spear. Then, it turned into a spear light and burst out. Boom! A huge spear light shot out and collided with Chu Baxing's battle god strike. Lu Ming's spear light exploded with a boom, and a destructive force swept towards the battle god. Lu Ming and Chu Baxing retreated all the way to the edge of the fighting ring. A few breaths later, the energy dissipated, and cracks began to appear on Chu Baxing's war god. Everyone's eyes narrowed in disbelief. Chu Baxing's battle god strike was not only blocked by Lu Ming, but also cracked. This was too terrifying. One had to know that Chu Baxing's move was boundless and invincible. He had used this move to defeat Jin Yuan's strongest attack. Even Yuhan didn't dare to take it head-on. But now, not only did Lu Ming take it head-on, he even cracked the battle god strike. This guy's strength has increased again. Jin Yuan muttered. He looked at Lu Ming with horror in his eyes. Back when Lu Ming fought Jin Yuan, Lu Ming had won, but it hadn't been an easy victory. On the other hand, Chu Baxing had defeated Jin Yuan with ease. However, Lu Ming's 3 Armageddon strikes had broken through one layer, reaching the 8th layer. Whether it was Space Splitter, Moon Splitter, or Supernova, all of them had increased in power. Now, Lu Ming's offensive power was on par with Chu Baxing's. Chu Baxing's eyes narrowed. In a battle of the same level, there were very few people who could take this move head-on, let alone those with lower cultivation. And Lu Ming was only a 5th-level celestial god. This caused Chu Baxing to feel a deep sense of jealousy. Let's see how many moves you can take. Die! Chu Baxing roared as he continued to control the battle god strike to attack Lu Ming. Divine Dragon Aspect. Moon Splitter Combo. Lu Ming shouted. First, he used the Divine Dragon Aspect art to form 9 nine-clawed dragons to attack Chu Baxing. Then, he used Moon Splitter Combo consecutively. In an instant, 7 crescent-shaped spear lights slashed at Chu Baxing. Boom! 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 The 9 dragons collided with the battle god strike in a suicidal manner, exploding one after another. Then, the 7 crescent-shaped spear lights slashed at the battle god strike. The giant battle god's body trembled continuously. In the end, it couldn't withstand the continuous attacks and exploded with a bang, dissipating into energy. Chu Baxing's body trembled as he retreated until he reached the edge of the stage. His face was pale. Everyone's heart trembled. Was Chu Baxing going to be defeated by a 5th-level celestial god? It seems like your battle god strike is only so-so. Chu Baxing, you're the one who's going to die today. Lu Ming said coldly as he took a step forward, closing in on Chu Baxing. Lu Ming, you think you can kill me? Dream on. You're the one who forced me to do this. This move was supposed to be used against Yuhan. Now, have a taste of it. Chu Baxing roared, his face contorted into a vicious expression. Boom! His aura skyrocketed once again. He held his spear horizontally and took a step forward. His body soared into the air, and he began to spin rapidly. Huff! 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 Chu Baxing spun wildly. In an instant, a terrifying vortex appeared in the air. Lu Ming, die. Chu Baxing's cold voice came from the vortex. Then, a terrifying suction force emerged from the vortex, trying to suck Lu Ming in. Lu Ming activated his divine power and stabilized himself. However, the vortex formed by Chu Baxing continued to charge at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's eyes were solemn. Lu Ming felt a terrifying danger in the vortex. If he was sucked in, he would be ground into minced meat. Divine Dragon Dharma Idol. Lu Ming roared as he used the Divine Dragon Dharma Idol art again. 9 Divine Dragon Dharma Idols charged at the vortex. However, when the Divine Dragon Dharma Idols collided with the vortex, they were instantly ground into energy. The vortex didn't stop there, and continued to envelop Lu Ming. Moon slashing. Lu Ming roared as he held his spear with both hands. A crescent-shaped spear light slashed at the vortex. Clang! Clang! When Lu Ming slashed at the vortex, the long spear in his hand was struck a few thousand times. A terrifying force surged. With a loud bang, the long spear in Lu Ming's hand, which was a 9th-level upper divine weapon, shattered into pieces. A powerful force rushed at Lu Ming. Lu Ming's body shook violently, and he was forced to retreat until he hit the light barrier at the edge of the stage. What a terrifying force! Lu Ming was shocked. P.S. Readers, I'm the shepherd boy Ting Zhu. I recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, 0 ads, and multiple reading modes. Chapter 3057. Chu Baxing's whirlpool was truly terrifying. Even Lu Ming wouldn't be able to withstand it head-on. Outside the stage, Yuhan's expression turned grave. Chu Baxing's move was indeed too powerful. Even with his strange cultivation method, it was still a threat to him. He might not be able to completely negate the attack. Lu Ming, go to hell. Ha ha ha. Chu Baxing laughed as the whirlpool continued to envelop Lu Ming. Before it even reached him, Lu Ming already found it hard to breathe. Star burst. Lu Ming roared as the divine fire in his body burned fiercely. Boundless divine power rushed towards the spear. Lu Ming used star burst once again. A huge spear light rushed towards the whirlpool and exploded. The destructive power continued to attack the whirlpool. Hoo hoo hoo, wang wang wang, under the impact of the destructive energy, the vortex continued to vibrate. In the end, it retreated some distance and its spinning speed seemed to slow down a little. However, after just a few breaths, the vortex continued to spin faster and faster, emitting whistling sounds. Lu Ming narrowed his eyes. Star Burst was able to block the war god's attack, but it couldn't block this move. One could only imagine how powerful this move was. However, Lu Ming didn't plan to use the ice shackles to protect himself. Lu Ming planned to use the ice shackles to deal with Yuhan. Lu Ming found that the ice shackles was very useful in his battle with Yu Lian. Lu Ming didn't want to expose it now. Die. Chu Baxing roared again as the whirlpool attacked Lu Ming again. Starburst. Lu Ming roared again and used Starburst. The destructive power sent the whirlpool flying again. It seems like you can't kill me. Lu Ming smiled faintly. I don't believe that you can keep using this move. Chu Baxing bellowed. Lu Ming's move was too powerful, and he couldn't keep using it. The move he was using now was not only draining his divine power, but it was also damaging to his body. He wouldn't use it unless he had no other choice. Today, Lu Ming had forced him into a corner and that was why he had used it. You don't believe me? Then I'll have to disappoint you, Starburst. Lu Ming laughed disdainfully. As soon as he finished his words, he cast another supernova move. Boom! The destructive energy once again bombarded the vortex, and the vortex was sent flying. Moreover, Lu Ming noticed that after a few consecutive attacks, the whirlpool's speed of rotation was constantly slowing down. Clearly, Chu Baxing was not completely unscathed by Lu Ming's continuous attacks. He was running out of energy. Since it worked, let's do it again. In his sea of consciousness, the quantum character formula glowed, and a steady stream of divine power flowed into Lu Ming's body. In a few breaths, Lu Ming's divine power was replenished. Starburst. Lu Ming used another move. Boom! The whirlpool was sent flying again, and its speed was even slower than before. Obviously, even its power was reduced. Damn it! Damn it! Why can't his divine power be used up? Chu Baxing roared in his heart. He was starting to panic. If this continued, he wouldn't be able to maintain it for a few more moves. Once he couldn't, the consequences would be dire. Starburst. Lu Ming's divine power was replenished, and he used another spear move. This time, the whirlpool was sent flying, and it crashed into the light barrier at the edge of the stage. It almost stopped spinning. Freak. Su Yan, the beast skin youth, and the others muttered. Of course, they were describing Lu Ming. In their hearts, Lu Ming was indeed a freak. Ah! Chu Baxing roared furiously from within the whirlpool. He tried his best to make the whirlpool spin faster. However, his divine power was severely depleted, and the side effects of using this move were starting to show. His body was starting to crack. If possible, he wanted to stop the battle. However, this was a battle of life and death. He had no choice but to grit his teeth and fight. Right now, he could only pray that Lu Ming's divine power would run out, and he would be at his mercy. Therefore, he had to hold on. But soon, he despaired. Starburst. Lu Ming spat out the words that made him feel hopeless. Then, a terrifying spear gleam charged toward him. Boom! This time, Chu Baxing was sent flying again, and he crashed into the light barrier at the edge of the stage. This time, Chu Baxing couldn't hold on any longer. The whirlpool collapsed, revealing Chu Baxing's body. Chu Baxing's body was horrifying. His skin was covered in bloody scars, as if his body was about to split apart. His aura was extremely weak, and he was worlds apart from his previous berserk state. Not only did he suffer a backlash, but he was also heavily injured by Lu Ming. He couldn't fight anymore. Chu Baxing, it looks like you'll be the one to die. Lu Ming said coldly as he stepped forward. Lu Ming, you can't kill me. Chu Baxing's eyes were filled with fear as he roared. I can't kill you. Don't use your status to threaten me again. I won't fall for it. Lu Ming said indifferently. Chu Baxing gritted his teeth. He did want to use his status to threaten Lu Ming so that Lu Ming would let him go. But now, other than this, was there any other way? Lu Ming, my identity is different. I am from the god of combat lineage. My ancestor is the god of combat of the Taishu's sacred court. If you kill me, you won't be able to survive no matter where you go. In the end, Chu Baxing used the faction behind him to threaten Chu Baxing. He believed that the faction behind him was different from others. Unfortunately, in Lu Ming's eyes, they were all the same. The war god bloodline has declined. It's already under the control of the Nine Sabers' Heavenly Emperor residence. How dare you threaten me with it? Ridiculous. Lu Ming said disdainfully. Don't you dare insult the war god bloodline. Our war god bloodline will rise again. We have a peerless genius among the younger generation. He'll definitely lead the war god bloodline to glory. Lu Ming, I can see that you're a talent. Why don't you join the war god bloodline? I'll guarantee you a meteoric rise. Chu Baxing roared. Naive. Lu Ming said coldly. He didn't want to waste time talking nonsense with Chu Baxing. His long spear shook, and a dozen spear auras shot towards Chu Baxing. Chu Baxing roared and tried his best to block, but in his current state, he couldn't exert much of his strength. He was too weak compared to Lu Ming. Asterisk puff 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 asterisk his body was pierced by the spear auras. Lu Ming, the war god bloodline will avenge me. Chu Baxing roared. Then, his forehead was pierced by the spear auras, and his soul was destroyed together with it. Chu Baxing, the outstanding successor of the war god bloodline, died at the hands of Lu Ming. With a wave of his hand, Lu Ming put away Chu Baxing's storage ring. P.S. Readers, I'm the shepherd boy Ting Zhu. I'm recommending a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, 0 ads, and multiple reading modes. Chapter 3058. Phew, Su Yan and the others heaved a sigh of relief. Their eyes were filled with shock. Chu Baxing was a domineering figure, but he was killed by a 5th-level heavenly god. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. They looked at Lu Ming with fear and solemnity in their eyes. If Lu Ming could kill Chu Baxing, it meant that he could kill them too. However, there were 2 exceptions. They were the 2 sky prides from the abysmal Heavenly King residence. Especially Yuhan. His cultivation technique was strange, so he wasn't too worried. Lu Ming's strongest attack wasn't abnormally strong, so Yuhan was confident that he could withstand it. However, he was more wary of Chu Baxing's vortex. Yuhan wasn't confident that he could withstand that attack. However, Yuhan was confident that he could handle Lu Ming's strongest move, Exploding Star. After all, Lu Ming had to use 5 or 6 exploding stars to defeat Chu Baxing. However, Yuhan wasn't Chu Baxing. He wouldn't let Lu Ming attack him like a fool. He had plenty of ways to deal with Lu Ming while Lu Ming was attacking. Therefore, his eyes were still filled with confidence. After Lu Ming killed Chu Baxing, Chu Baxing's path disappeared along with the battle platform. Lu Ming returned to his path. The next battle was between Yuhan and the Sky Pride from the abysmal Heavenly King residence. I admit defeat. The Sky Pride from the abysmal Heavenly King residence admitted defeat. He and Yuhan were both from the abysmal Heavenly King residence, so he knew that he wasn't Yuhan's match. With that, the final 2 contestants were Yuhan and Lu Ming. This is the last battle. The winner will get the Natal Spirit Stone. Give it your all. The Formation Spirit said. With a wave of his hand, the path beneath Lu Ming and Yuhan's feet extended and merged together to form a battle platform. Whoosh! Yuhan's figure dashed directly to the fighting ring, looking at Lu Ming with a cold and sinister gaze. Come on, die. Yuhan shouted coldly. Why is everyone so confident? Lu Ming pursed his lips. He stepped forward and landed on the fighting ring. Immediately, a light barrier enveloped the fighting stage. Because I have the strength, so I am confident. Yuhan sneered. Before he could finish his sentence, his body had already charged towards Lu Ming at lightning speed. Lu Ming immediately displayed the ancient god tactics and transformed into a green-armored ancient god. With a shake of his long spear, dozens of spear radiances pierced out and pierced towards Yuhan. However, Yuhan's body was like a ghost, rushing towards Lu Ming. In a flash, she dodged the spear lights and continued to rush towards Lu Ming. However, all of this was within Lu Ming's expectations. Lu Ming and Yu Lian had fought before and already had some idea of the other party's methods. Wang! The long spear vibrated and a crescent-shaped spear radiance slashed towards Yuhan. Yuhan's body emitted a mist, and within the mist, there seemed to be endless cries of injustice. His body trembled continuously, dissipating the power of the crescent moon slash. The crescent moon slash did not cause much damage to him, and Yuhan continued to rush towards Lu Ming. 9 Serenity's Ghost Claw. Yuhan shouted and a ghost claw was formed, grabbing towards Lu Ming. His eyes were filled with excitement, as if he could see the scene of Lu Ming being killed by him. Boom! A wave of energy from the 9 Serenity's ghost claw hit Lu Ming. The strange energy passed through Lu Ming's body and rushed towards Lu Ming's soul. However, Lu Ming's soul was protected by the Jingyu painting. When the energy hit the Jingyu painting, it had no effect on Lu Ming's soul. Yuhan was waiting for Lu Ming's soul to be affected and his strength to weaken before launching a thunderous attack. However, what he waited for was Lu Ming's thunderous attack. Exploding Star. Lu Ming shouted and used the Exploding Star move. A terrifying spear radiance rushed towards Yuhan and exploded. The destructive energy shrouded Yuhan in an instant. How can this be? How can this be? Yuhan screamed in shock. At the same time, he retreated rapidly. His body emitted a thick mist and ghostly shadows appeared, blocking the destructive energy around him. Puff puff puff, a large number of ghostly shadows turned into ashes under the destructive energy and disappeared completely. Finally, Yuhan retreated out of the attack range. However, his face was pale. Obviously, this move had caused him to suffer a great loss. His eyes were filled with anger as he stared at Lu Ming. That move had caused him to suffer a great loss. Brat, how can you block my soul attack? Yuhan roared. Idiot, why should I tell you? Lu Ming despised the other party. He took a step forward and charged toward the other party. Luck, it must be luck. I don't believe it. Yuhan roared and pounced towards Lu Ming again. Unfortunately, this time was the same as the previous time. When his attack landed on Lu Ming, it had no effect on Lu Ming. On the contrary, Lu Ming seized the opportunity and used another Exploding Star move. Yuhan's face turned pale and he lost a large number of ghostly shadows. Damn it, you're not afraid of my soul attack. Oh right, you must have a treasure to protect your soul. Yuhan roared. It's too late to know now. Lu Ming sneered. Too late? It's not late at all. Lu Ming, do you think you can kill me? As long as I dodge with all my strength, your attacks won't be able to reach me. No matter how much divine force you have, it will run out sooner or later. I can exhaust you to death. Yuhan shouted angrily. The fog around her became thicker and thicker, about to envelop the entire fighting stage. At the same time, ghostly shadows flickered in the fog. Yuhan's body kept flickering, as if she had merged with the ghostly shadows, making it difficult for people to track her. Even if Lu Ming wasn't afraid of soul attacks, he wasn't afraid. Lu Ming's strongest attack wasn't as strong as Chu Baxing's. As long as he dodged, it would be difficult to deal a heavy blow to him. Is that so? The corners of Lu Ming's mouth curled into a sneer. With a thought, the ice shackles flew out. As soon as the 9 ice chains flew out, they rapidly lengthened and revolved around the battle stage. A terrifying coldness permeated the air. Layers of ice crystals appeared in the air, freezing the ghostly figures. Yuhan was shocked. I'll shrink the battle stage. Let's see how you're going to dodge. Lu Ming said coldly. He manipulated the ice shackles to dance around the fighting ring. Soon, the fighting ring was covered with ice shackles and the space in the fighting ring was shrinking rapidly. You want to trap me? Dream on. All you have to do is destroy these chains. Yuhan shrieked and launched an attack, bombarding the ice shackles relentlessly. However, the ice chains only shook a few times and didn't break. At this moment, Yuhan's expression changed completely. How is this possible? How can it be so hard? Yuhan screamed in horror. Chapter 3059. Yuhan's overall strength was strong, but he relied more on his strange cultivation technique and the soul shock technique. However, his attack power was not as strong as Jin Yuan and Chu Baxing, so he could not break the ice chains. This was a move that Lu Ming had prepared for Yuhan. Compared to Lu Ming, dealing with Yuhan was easier than dealing with Chu Baxing. Boom! Boom! Yuhan kept attacking the ice shackles, but it was useless. On the contrary, the terrifying chill of the ice shackles almost froze his body, causing his speed to decrease a little. Damn it, Yuhan was really panicking. She roared furiously, no longer having the confidence she had before. Star burst. Lu Ming stepped forward and performed the supernova move, blasting it toward Yuhan. Boom! The destructive force swept towards Yuhan. Yuhan wanted to dodge, but he was surrounded by ice chains. There was no way he could dodge. The terrifying destructive force bombarded his body continuously. Green smoke rose from his body, and a large number of ghostly shadows were turned into ashes by the destructive force. After one move, Yuhan's aura was weakened. Without being able to dodge, he was even weaker than Chu Baxing. He was severely injured in one move. No, Yuhan was completely panicking. He kept shouting and wanted to retreat. With a few flashes, he dodged some of the ice chains. Unfortunately, the light shield of the fighting stage was behind him. He slammed into the light shield and was blocked by it. Despair was written all over his face. If they were outside, Lu Ming wouldn't be able to do anything to him even if he had the ice chains. Even if he couldn't win, he could still escape. However, the space here was too small. He couldn't escape at all. Senior, let me out. I don't want the life spirit vitality stone anymore. Let me out. Yuhan kept shouting. However, the array spirit was indifferent and unmoved. Yuhan was in despair. Star burst. Another low voice was heard, and then a destructive force drowned Yuhan. Bang! Yuhan's body directly exploded, turning into ghostly shadows. Among them, more than half of the ghostly shadows were destroyed by the destructive force. The remaining half wriggled, trying to recover and merge back together. However, Lu Ming struck again. The destructive energy completely drowned Yuhan. Yuhan let out a cry of despair. This time, all the ghostly shadows were destroyed, completely vanishing into thin air. As for Yuhan, she had completely fallen. Another genius had been killed by Lu Ming. This time around, killing Yuhan was much easier than killing Chu Baxing. It was a completely one-sided battle. The main reason was that Yuhan's various advantages and methods were completely ineffective against Lu Ming. In this relatively narrow environment, Yuhan was restrained by Lu Ming. She couldn't dodge even if she wanted to, and was easily killed by Lu Ming. This Lu Ming must be eliminated. Jin Yuan muttered, his eyes flashing with murderous intent. He was thinking about how to get rid of Lu Ming with the help of the Jin family after leaving Xingyue Ancient City. Kid, you killed a genius of the abysmal heavenly palace. We will remember this. The last genius of the abysmal heavenly palace said coldly. His eyes were filled with murderous intent as he looked at Lu Ming. The others also had different thoughts in their minds. If you're not afraid of death, then come at me. Lu Ming replied indifferently and ignored them. Alright, the final winner has been born. The natal spirit stone already has an owner. The rest of you, go back. The array spirit said. After speaking, he waved his hand. The path under Su Yan, Jin Yuan, and the rest quickly shrank and disappeared into the chaotic fog. Only Lu Ming was left at the scene. Come up. The erase spirit waved his hand again. The path under Lu Ming's feet extended all the way to the high platform where the erase spirit was. Lu Ming stepped forward and finally walked up to the high platform. There was nothing else on the high platform except for an altar. The altar looked very old and was filled with the aura of time. On top of the altar, there was a black ball floating there. Is this the natal spirit stone? Lu Ming stared at the ball, his eyes shining with a fiery light. In the early days of the Heavenly Palace era, it was guarded by so many powerful existences. Along the way, there were many barriers to protect the natal spirit stone. How mysterious was it? Lu Ming was looking forward to it. Senior, is this the natal spirit stone? Lu Ming asked the erase spirit. That's right. This is the natal spirit stone. It's yours now. You just need to drip a drop of blood on it and you can keep it. The erase spirit smiled. Thank you, Senior. Lu Ming cupped his fists and then stepped up to the side of the altar. He forced out a drop of blood and dripped it on the black natal spirit stone. Suddenly, a ray of black light appeared on the natal spirit stone. In a flash, the drop of blood was absorbed by the natal spirit stone. At this moment, Lu Ming seemed to have established a connection with the natal spirit stone. It was as if Lu Ming could control the natal spirit stone at will. With a thought, the natal spirit stone on the altar flew up and turned into a rainbow light. It flew into Lu Ming's glabella and disappeared. The next moment, the natal spirit stone appeared in Lu Ming's sea of consciousness and floated there quietly. Come out. Lu Ming muttered. The natal spirit stone appeared in Lu Ming's palm. Lu Ming channeled his divine power and poured it into the natal spirit stone. However, it was like a stone sinking into the sea. There was no reaction at all. Senior, how do I use this natal spirit stone? What does it do? Lu Ming asked the erase spirit. It doesn't work. The erase spirit answered lightly. Lu Ming staggered and almost fell. What? It doesn't work? Lu Ming looked at the erase spirit with an ugly expression and said, Senior, what do you mean by it doesn't work? It means it doesn't work. Don't you understand? The erase spirit said. Lu Ming's face sank. He was really speechless. He had risked his life all the way here and what he got in the end was a piece of scrap metal? Lu Ming was about to vomit blood. It was a trap. It was a trap. However, if it didn't work, why did so many people guard it? Little guy, don't be discouraged. I said it doesn't work because the natal spirit stone you got is just a fragment. The erase spirit said. A fragment? This isn't complete? Lu Ming asked speechlessly. Yes, this is not a complete natal spirit stone. It's just a fragment. The other fragments are scattered everywhere. I don't know where they are. The erase spirit said. It's just a fragment. What can I do with it? Lu Ming sighed. He was still brooding over this. Little guy, don't underestimate this fragment. It's a fragment of the natal spirit stone. In the early Heavenly Palace era, no, even in the incipient God era, this was a rare treasure. It has a great effect. Do you know? The erase spirit said. Chapter 3060. The erase spirit rambled on about how awesome the life spirit stone was. He said that it was already a great fortune for Lu Ming to get a fragment. However, Lu Ming was not in the mood to listen at all. He had worked so hard to get a fragment, but it was useless. He was very unhappy. Little guy, you must not underestimate a fragment. If you can collect all the fragments in the future and turn them into a complete life spirit stone, it will be a great fortune for you. It can help you become the overlord of the primitive universe. The erase spirit persuaded Lu Ming earnestly. Become the overlord of the primitive universe? Are you bragging? Lu Ming did not believe it. Of course it's true. I can swear that a complete life spirit stone will definitely be more useful than you can imagine. The erase spirit swore dandan. Hearing what the erase spirit said, Lu Ming was really a little tempted. As Lu Ming's cultivation continued to improve, he saw more and more things. His horizons were broadened and he knew more about the primitive universe. However, the more he knew, the more he was in awe. The primitive universe was too big, too big, too big. It was boundless. In the primitive universe, there were countless races, countless powerhouses, and countless powerful forces. Not to mention the Qin Tian starfield, even a universe-level force like the Taishu dynasty only occupied a corner of the primitive universe. In the primitive universe, there were countless universe empires like the Taishu dynasty or forces of the same level. There were even forces more terrifying than the Taishu dynasty. No one knew how many terrifying powerhouses there were in the primitive universe. Perhaps, there was an invincible powerhouse living in seclusion on a remote planet. Therefore, it was too difficult to become the overlord of the primitive universe. There were countless powerhouses in the primitive universe, but how many dared to be called an overlord? The array spirit said that as long as he got a complete life spirit stone, it could help him become the overlord of the universe. This made Lu Ming excited. Seeing Lu Ming's eyes lit up, the array spirit continued, "So, work hard and find the remaining fragments of the life spirit stone. You are very talented. I have high hopes for you." Lu Ming glanced at the array spirit. He had a feeling that the array spirit wanted Lu Ming to find the remaining fragments. It looked more anxious than Lu Ming. "How do I find the remaining fragments?" Lu Ming asked. "The natal spirit stone is a rare treasure. Even if it's just a fragment, it's still a rare treasure. It has its own spirituality and will look for an opportunity to come out and find a suitable genius to become its master, just like you," the array spirit said. Lu Ming's gaze shifted. "That's right. That's why you have to kill other geniuses with natal spirit stone fragments to obtain their natal spirit stone fragments. That's the only way their natal spirit stone fragments will recognize you as its master and merge with your natal spirit stone fragments," the array spirit explained. "Then where can I find those geniuses? The primitive universe is so big. Isn't it like looking for a needle in a haystack?" Lu Ming frowned. "Of course not. Fragments of natal spirit stones have a strange connection with each other. As the owners of the fragments of natal spirit stones, they will eventually meet. Once they meet, you will know who the owner of the natal spirit stone is. But let me tell you, the life spirit vitality stone fragments won't recognize anyone as its master unless they're a peerless genius. So, in the future, when you meet geniuses, they'll be terrifying geniuses. You have to work hard and improve your strength. You're still too weak," the array spirit continued to explain. "Can I not take the life spirit vitality stone fragment?" Lu Ming said, feeling rather speechless. He had obtained the life spirit vitality stone fragment, but he had gained nothing. Instead, a group of enemies had appeared out of nowhere. He was even more displeased. "No, you've already dripped your blood. You can't refuse it even if you don't want to. Geniuses with vitality stones are destined to be enemies. Even if you don't kill others, others will kill you. Young man, work hard," the array spirit continued, its eyes full of anticipation. Lu Ming felt that he had fallen into a trap. He had not gained any benefits, but he had gained himself a group of potential enemies. Moreover, they were all extremely terrifying enemies. "Senior, how do I get out?" Lu Ming sighed. He could only accept his fate and leave first. "The platform under your feet is a teleportation formation. It can help you leave this place. You just have to inject your divine power into the altar." With that, the array spirit turned into a rainbow light, flew into the life spirit vitality stone, and disappeared. Seeing this scene, Lu Ming's eyes widened. He felt that something was wrong and shouted, "Wait, come out." The life spirit vitality stone fragment shone and the array spirit's figure appeared again. "Little guy, why are you calling me?" the array spirit asked. "Aren't you the array spirit here?" Why are you in the life spirit vitality stone fragment? Lu Ming asked. Ahem, I'm indeed such an array spirit. The array spirit coughed a few times and said without blushing. Old man, you lied to me. Lu Ming gritted his teeth and said, since you're the array spirit here, you can only stay here forever and accompany the array here. You entered the life spirit vitality stone fragment to leave. How can an array spirit leave? So, you're not the array spirit. Who are you? Why did you lie to me? With that, Lu Ming stared at the array spirit without blinking. He felt that he had been deceived by the old man. Ahem, ha ha ha, little guy, you're worthy of being a peerless genius. To be recognized by the life spirit vitality stone fragment, you're really not simple. To tell you the truth, I'm not the array spirit. I'm the rock spirit of the life spirit vitality stone. The old man coughed a few times and laughed. The rock spirit of the life spirit vitality stone? Then why did you lie to me before? Lu Ming asked, still staring at the old man. I didn't tell you before because I wanted to test you and see if you could tell. You didn't let me down. The old man laughed and said. Bullshit, this old man was definitely bullshitting. He even said that he wanted to test Lu Ming. He was definitely boasting shamelessly. Old man, you're shameless. Lu Ming stared at the old man. This guy said that he was the rock spirit, and Lu Ming believed him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to enter the life spirit vitality stone fragment so easily. Ahem, little guy, what are you talking about? How can you say that about an old man? The rock spirit coughed a few more times. If I'm not wrong, every life spirit vitality stone fragment has a rock spirit. As long as you can kill other geniuses who have obtained the life spirit vitality stone fragment, not only can the life spirit vitality stone fragment fuse, you can also swallow other rock spirits to strengthen yourself, right? Lu Ming said. Chapter 3061. Lu Ming's words caused Shiling's expression to change. Little guy, you can even guess this? Shiling was really surprised this time. It's just a random guess. It seems that I guessed right. Lu Ming's face was cold. This old guy was bragging about how awesome the life spirit vitality stone was to tempt Lu Ming. He was up to no good. He wanted to use Lu Ming to integrate other rock spirits. No wonder he didn't tell Lu Ming that he was a rock spirit and not a formation spirit. Lu Ming even suspected that a complete life spirit vitality stone was not as awesome as Shiling said. It could help him become a universe overlord. He must be bragging. Little guy, don't look at me like that. The more rock spirits I integrate, the stronger I will be. The stronger I am, the stronger the life spirit vitality stone, and the more benefits it will bring to you. I'm doing this for your own good. Shiling said shamelessly. However, Lu Ming didn't really believe this old guy. He felt that he had really fallen into a trap. Old guy, since you are a rock spirit and the life spirit vitality stone fragment has recognized me as its master, it means that you have recognized me as your master. Is it appropriate for you to call me little guy? Lu Ming stared at Shiling with an unfriendly look. Shiling looked embarrassed and smiled brightly. It's just a form of address. Why take it so seriously? Look at me, I'm already so old. It's not bad to call you little guy. Why don't I call you Lu Ming? Lu Ming's face was still sullen. He stared at Shiling and didn't say a word. Shiling felt guilty and said, okay. Master, I'll call you master, okay? Shilingsheen said unwillingly. That's more like it. Lu Ming's mood was finally a little better. Anyway, he felt that Shiling was very unreliable. He couldn't be bothered to be polite with him. Go in, I'm leaving. Lu Ming said. The rock spirit nodded, turned into a beam of light, and drilled into the life spirit stone fragment. Then, Lu Ming put the life spirit stone fragment into his sea of consciousness, walked to the altar, and poured his divine power into it. Wang. As soon as he channeled his divine power into the altar, runes began to appear on the altar. Then, runes began to appear on the entire platform. Shi Ling was right. This platform was a transportation array. Runes filled the air, and a door of light appeared. Lu Ming stepped in, and in the next moment, Lu Ming discovered that he had appeared on top of a mountain peak. Lu Ming looked around and discovered that he was already outside the castle. He was about tens of thousands of li away from the castle. Looks like there are no treasures in this entire castle. Only a fragment of the life spirit origin stone was left behind. Lu Ming muttered a few words, then soared into the sky, turned into a beam of light, and left this place. Inside the castle, many sky prides were still exploring, but Jin Yuan, Su Yan, and the others continued to explore. After discovering that there was nothing to be gained, they all left. Lu Ming flew all the way, and after flying for hundreds of thousands of li, he found a place to land. It's been a few months since I entered the castle. I wonder if Wu Ming and the others have any news about the mid-autumn moon. Lu Ming pondered, then took out a voice transmission jade talisman. First, he sent a message to the mid-autumn moon, but he still could not send it. Then, he sent a message to Wu Ming. Unexpectedly, not long after, Wu Ming replied. The message said that they had found clues about the mid-autumn moon. Seeing this, Lu Ming was overjoyed. After arranging a meeting place with Wu Ming and the others, Lu Ming hurried to the meeting place. A day later, Lu Ming met Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the others. Brothers Wu, you said that you have news about the mid-autumn moon, is it true? As soon as he saw Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the others, Lu Ming couldn't wait to ask. It's true. During this period, we've been asking around and finally found some clues. It said that someone saw the mid-autumn moon at the Myriad Moon Lake. Wu Ming said. Myriad Moon Lake? What time period? Lu Ming asked. He knew about the Myriad Moon Lake. It was recorded on the map that Wu Zixiong gave him. It was a huge lake that was extremely mysterious. I heard that they saw it when they first entered Xingyue Ancient City, but then it disappeared. Wu Ming frowned. Saw it when they first entered Xingyue Ancient City? Lu Ming frowned, and he had a bad feeling in his heart. The mid-autumn moon appeared at the beginning, but then it disappeared. Even the voice transmission jade talisman could not be sent out. What was going on? Did something really happen? Brother Lu, don't worry. I believe that the mid-autumn moon will be fine. Yes. Wu Ming, Wu Yu, and the others comforted Lu Ming. Thank you, Brother Wu. Lu Ming will take his leave now. Lu Ming cupped his fists and said. Brother Lu, why don't we go with you? Wu Zixiong said. No need. I'll go to the Myriad Moon Lake. Next, I'll have to trouble you to help me find out about the mid-autumn moon. Lu Ming said. Of course. Brother Lu, don't worry. Wu Ming and the others nodded. They also knew that Lu Ming's strength was much stronger than theirs. If they followed Lu Ming, not only would they not be able to help, but they might even drag Lu Ming down. It was better for Lu Ming to act alone. Lu Ming said goodbye to Wu Ming and the others and went to the Myriad Moon Lake alone. The Myriad Moon Lake was west of where Lu Ming was. Lu Ming spent more than a day to reach the Myriad Moon Lake. A boundless lake appeared in front of him. This lake was very mysterious. There seemed to be countless bright moonlight shadows on the lake, which was why it was called the Myriad Moon Lake. Rumble. Loud rumbling noises could still be heard from far away. Lu Ming flew to the center of the Myriad Moon Lake. Not long after, Lu Ming found a huge whirlpool in the center of the lake. The rumbling sound came from this whirlpool. The whirlpool was very large, at least a few thousand miles in radius. The endless lake water was sucked into the whirlpool, but the strange thing was that the lake water did not decrease. Suddenly, Lu Ming's eyes moved. He saw a figure on the other side of the whirlpool. It was a young man. He was a winged person with a pair of green wings on his back. There were wisps of lightning swimming on his wings. He was a thunder-winged person of the winged race. The winged race was an extremely large race in the primitive universe. It was divided into many different branches of the winged race, and their strength was unparalleled. The thunder-winged race was just one of the branches of the winged race. Lu Ming remembered that there was an ancient family in the 9 extinction Heavenly King residence, and all of them were thunder-winged people. The other party looked at Lu Ming, and his eyes flickered. Obviously, he recognized Lu Ming. Lu Ming flew over and cupped his fists. "Brother, I want to ask you something. May I ask if you have seen this woman?" After saying that, Lu Ming took out a jade talisman. The jade talisman shone, and the image of the autumn moon appeared out of thin air. This jade talisman sealed the image of the autumn moon. Chapter 3062. When the winged man youth saw the image of mid-autumn moon, his eyes flickered and he was surprised. Lu Ming noticed this clearly. "Brother, have you seen this woman before?" Lu Ming quickly asked. "Yes, I have." The winged man youth nodded. "Where have I seen him before?" "When?" Lu Ming's eyes lit up and he quickly asked. "Who is this woman to you? Why should I tell you?" The winged man youth turned his eyes and asked. "This woman is my wife. She entered Star Crescent Ancient City with me." "I think you know her," Lu Ming said. "Oh, so she's your wife." "To tell you the truth, when I first entered Star Crescent Ancient City, I was teleported nearby and happened to see your wife. However, she later entered this whirlpool," the winged man youth said. "She entered this whirlpool?" Lu Ming's heart sank and more doubts arose in his heart. Why did mid-autumn moon enter this whirlpool? But then again, it was not impossible. The voice transmission jade talisman could not send any messages. It was very likely that it was isolated. If mid-autumn moon was in this whirlpool, it was normal that the voice transmission jade talisman could not send any messages. "Brother, have you seen my wife after that?" Lu Ming asked again. "No. To be honest, I have been cultivating nearby for the past few years and have not seen your wife. Your wife entered this whirlpool and never came out," the winged man youth said. "She never came out. Could it be that mid-autumn moon has been in there all this time?" Lu Ming became more worried. In the end, Lu Ming decided to go in and check it out himself. Although he did not know whether the whirlpool was dangerous or not, Lu Ming had to make this trip. "Thank you." Lu Ming cupped his fists at the youth of the Winged Men clan before he turned around and left. After checking the surroundings of the whirlpool, Lu Ming's figure flashed and he directly rushed into the whirlpool. As soon as he dashed into the vortex, the surrounding huge waves slammed toward Lu Ming. Even a sacred mountain would be smashed into smithereens. However, Lu Ming circulated his divine power, and the 9-layered crimson gold armor appeared, easily blocking the attack of the giant wave. Lu Ming followed the power of the whirlpool and went into the depths of the whirlpool, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Seeing that Lu Ming had entered the whirlpool, the young man from the Wing Men clan sneered and revealed a ferocious killing intent. "Lu Ming, he, there's something I forgot to tell you. Your wife was forced into this whirlpool by me. This whirlpool is definitely very dangerous. I hope you die in there, he. The youth of the Winged Men clan kept sneering. He did not leave immediately. Instead, he waited in the surroundings. After waiting for a few months, he did not see Lu Ming coming out. Hence, he left this place. Lu Ming naturally did not hear what the youth of the Winged Men clan said. He followed the whirlpool and kept going down. Gradually, the whirlpool became smaller. Finally, Lu Ming's body became lighter. He found that he had come out of the whirlpool and arrived at an underground space. The walls of this underground space were carved with lifelike statues. They looked like ancient deities that had traveled through time and space to come here. There was indeed another world under the myriad moon lake. The mid-autumn moon should be under here. Lu Ming looked around and finally found a passage. Lu Ming followed the passage and went forward. There was nothing unusual along the way. After passing through the passage, he came to a bigger palace. Ta-ta-ta, when Lu Ming stepped into the palace, he heard footsteps coming from the palace. Lu Ming was shocked and looked in a direction. There was a big door in that direction. Not long after, a figure walked out from behind the big door. It was an old man from the human clan. He was wearing a snow-white robe and had a head full of white hair. He had a snow-white beard and looked like an immortal. However, Lu Ming stared at the old man cautiously. This old man was not like Shirling, who had an illusory body. He was a living being with flesh and blood. How could there be such an old man in Starry Crescent Ancient City? Could it be that he was a native of this place? Or was he an old monster that had survived from the early days of the Heavenly Palace? Lu Ming did not dare to be careless. Finally, someone else is here. The elder looked at Lu Ming and smiled gently. His smile was amiable and it made one feel as though they were bathed in the spring breeze. Anyway, Lu Ming did not feel any malice from the old man. "Senior, a friend of mine has entered this place. I'm here to look for someone." Lu Ming cupped his fists and said. "You're looking for a beautiful lady, right?" The old man asked with a smile. "That's right. Have you seen her before?" Lu Ming was overjoyed. He quickly took out the image of Autumn Moon and showed it to the old man. The old man glanced at it and nodded. "That's right. It's this lady who came here a few years ago." "Where is this lady now?" "To tell you the truth, this lady is my wife," Lu Ming said. Although Lu Ming and Autumn Moon were not officially married, Lu Ming had already regarded her as his wife in his heart. "So she's your wife?" The old man smiled and said, "You don't have to worry. Your wife is very safe and has obtained a supreme opportunity." "Obtained a supreme opportunity? What do you mean?" Lu Ming asked again. He would not believe the old man so easily. This place was the cave of a supreme expert in the early days of the Heavenly Palace era. That supreme expert was my ancestor's master. Later on, that supreme expert passed away and left behind his inheritance. Your wife happens to be suitable for this inheritance. All these years, she has been receiving the inheritance. Isn't this a great opportunity?" The old man said. "The inheritance of a supreme expert?" Lu Ming's eyes flickered as he thought quickly. The old man's words revealed a lot of information. First of all, this place was the cave of a supreme expert in the early days of the Heavenly Palace era. That expert passed away and left behind his inheritance. The old man's ancestor was that expert's servant. In that case, this old man was really a native of Xingyue Ancient City and had been guarding this place since then? Of course, Lu Ming would not believe the old man just because of a few words. "Senior, can I see my wife?" Lu Ming asked. "She's receiving the inheritance and is at a critical moment. I'm afraid it's inconvenient for her to see you," the old man said. Lu Ming's face darkened. If he did not see her, how would Lu Ming know if the old man was telling the truth? "However, if you really want to see her, I can let you see her." At the end of his words, the old man changed the topic. Then, he waved his hand and his palm shone. An image appeared in the void. In the image, there was a stone room where a beautiful woman was sitting cross-legged. Her body was emitting 9-colored divine light. Who else could this woman be other than Autumn Moon? Qiu Yu sat cross-legged with a solemn expression on her face. There was a huge sphere floating above her head. Chapter 3063. There was a round ball floating above Mid-Autumn Moon's head. This round ball was a stone ball. It looked very ancient and had a diameter of a few meters. It was emitting a hazy glow. However, at a glance, this round ball looked like an eyeball. A huge stone eyeball. It was a little strange. It seemed that Mid-Autumn Moon was really accepting the inheritance. Seeing that Mid-Autumn Moon was fine, Lu Ming finally breathed a sigh of relief. It was no wonder that Lu Ming could not send a message out all these years. Mid-Autumn Moon was in this underground space and was accepting the inheritance. It would be strange if the message could be sent out. The old man waved his hand and the image disappeared. Do you believe me now? Your wife has reached a critical moment in accepting the inheritance. I estimate that it will take a few more years for the inheritance to be completed. At that time, your wife's cultivation will skyrocket and she will become a peerless genius. The old man said with a smile. Lu Ming nodded and did not doubt him. It seemed that Mid-Autumn Moon's opportunity was not small. I'm Deng Xiu. Little guy, what's your name? At this moment, the old man asked. I'm Lu Ming. Lu Ming replied. Lu Ming, your wife still needs a few more years to accept the inheritance. Why don't you wait for her here? After she is done, you can leave with her. What do you think? Deng Xiu said. That's what I think too. Lu Ming nodded. Well, that's it then. However, I won't make you wait for the next few years. Since you're here, it's your fortune. I'll give you a secret technique. Study it carefully in the next few years. Whether you can cultivate it successfully or not will depend on your talent. Deng Xiu said with a smile. Secret technique? Lu Ming's eyes lit up. The owner of this place was an expert from the early Heavenly Palace era. The secret technique that he left behind was probably not to be underestimated. Lu Ming was a little tempted. Lu Ming, come with me. After Deng Xiu finished speaking, he turned around and walked toward the door behind him. Lu Ming followed behind. The underground space was huge. There were many palaces and stone rooms. Lu Ming followed Deng Xiu and went through several passages. Finally, they came to the bottom of a stone tablet. This stone tablet was huge. It was a few hundred meters tall. The stone tablet was engraved with strange runes. These runes were intertwined together and vaguely seemed to form a pair of eyes. What's carved on this stone tablet is a secret technique called the Yin-Yang Godly Eyes. It's a kind of eye technique. If you master it, you'll be able to kill people with just the opening and closing of your eyes. Deng Xiu introduced. As he spoke, the two arrived at the bottom. Lu Ming looked at the runes on the stone tablet seriously. At this moment, Deng Xiu's figure suddenly retreated. In the blink of an eye, he had retreated 1,000 meters away. Senior, what are you doing? Endless runes glowed and formed a huge formation. The formation was white on one side and black on the other. It looked like a Tai Chi formation. It covered an area of 1,000 meters. Boom! Lu Ming's figure flashed. He wanted to rush out of the formation. However, when he came to the edge, a light screen appeared and blocked Lu Ming's figure. Lu Ming crashed into the light screen and made a loud rumbling sound. Ha ha ha, kid, stay in there obediently. At this moment, Deng Xiu's face was no longer kind. Instead, it was filled with a ferocious expression as he laughed out loud. Deng Xiu, you lied to me? Lu Ming roared. I didn't lie to you. My name is Deng Xiu. What's engraved on the stone tablet is a secret technique called Yin-Yang God Eyes. Deng Xiu sneered. Then why did you trick me into entering this formation? Lu Ming asked. It's simple. I want you to stay here obediently so that you won't ruin my master's plan. Deng Xiu sneered. Master's plan? What do you mean? Is it that stone ball? Lu Ming's face suddenly changed. Hee, it seems that you're a little smart. To tell you the truth, this is not my master's cave residence. The real master here was killed by my master in the early days of the Heavenly Palace era. Unfortunately, my master was seriously injured and only left an eye. He has been in a deep sleep until now. My master didn't wake up until your wife, that girl called Xiao Yu, came in. That girl is amazing. She actually has the sacred heart of 9 orifices. As long as my master occupies her body, he can be resurrected and returned to the peak. Ha ha ha. Deng Xiao laughed and explained. Lu Ming's heart sank. It turned out that what Deng Xiao said was false. What about Autumn Moon receiving the inheritance of a supreme expert? It was all nonsense. In fact, that stone ball took a fancy to Autumn Moon's physique and wanted to possess Autumn Moon and take Autumn Moon as its own. The scene that Deng Xiao showed Lu Ming just now was not Autumn Moon receiving the inheritance, but Autumn Moon resisting the other party's possession. Autumn Moon was facing a crisis. Lu Ming's face was extremely ugly. Speaking of which, that girl's mind is really tough. She has resisted for so many years. However, no matter how tough her mind is, she won't be able to resist for many years. At most 10 years, no, at most 8 years, she will be completely possessed by my master. Then, my master will take us away from this damn place and dominate the primitive universe. Ha ha ha. Deng Xiao laughed at the end of his words and was very proud. As he laughed, Deng Xiao's body changed rapidly and turned into a huge eyeball floating in the air, looking extremely ferocious. Hee hee, to tell you the truth, I don't have an ancestor at all. I evolved from my master's flesh. Deng Xiao continued to laugh. At this moment, Lu Ming knew that Lu Ming had been targeted the moment he entered this place. Deng Xiao had deliberately turned into an amiable old man and told a series of lies to trick Lu Ming into coming here and trapping Lu Ming. However, Deng Xiao was extremely cunning. His words were filled with both truth and lies, which was why Lu Ming fell for it. Don't even think about it. Lu Ming roared. He would never let Deng Xiao have his way. A long spear appeared in Lu Ming's hand. Although Lu Ming's spear had been destroyed in the battle with Chu Baxing, Lu Ming still had a lot of spare spears. This one was also a 9th order divine grade god artifact. Moon slaying. Lu Ming's divine power surged as he slashed forward with his spear. A crescent-shaped spear light slashed at the light barrier at the edge of the formation. The light barrier only trembled slightly, then returned to normal. Hee hee, kid, don't waste your energy. This yin-yang formation isn't something you can break. Deng Xiao laughed mockingly. I don't believe, Lu Ming roared as his body expanded rapidly and turned into a green-armored ancient god. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.